For the City of Norfolk Planning Commission. At this time, we ask that you turn off all pagers, cell phones, or other electronic signaling devices. The agenda for today's hearing is located in the council chamber lobby. Staff reports and maps for the City Planning Commission hearings will be available online approximately 1 week prior to the public hearing. To access this information, log on to www.norfolk.gov/planning. If you wish to speak on an item on today's agenda, you must fill out a request form with a staff member located in the council chamber lobby. We normally hear the items in the order in which they are listed on the agenda. The Planning Department staff, God bless you, the Planning Department staff will introduce each item by stating the type and purpose of the application and the location of the property. A staff member will deliver a presentation on each item, followed by a recommendation on each application to be considered at this hearing. Following the staff presentation, the commission will hear from the proponents and then from the opponents, if there are any. Anyone who has signed in to speak will be called by the chair. They should approach the podium, state their name and mailing address. The speaker should speak directly to the commission and not to the audience. Remarks will be limited to 3 minutes each. However, the applicant's time will not be limited. After all proponents and opponents have been heard, the commission will allow rebuttal, first from the proponents, then opponents. Total time for rebuttals are limited to 5 minutes each. At the conclusion of the hearing on each item and after considering all information presented, the commission will take action on the matter. Action on each matter by the commission will be to recommend approval or denial by a majority vote. The statement of the motion in the affirmative by a member of the staff is a matter of voting procedure and in no way indicates the recommendation of the staff or consensus of the commission. Following the action by the commission on the matter, a written recommendation will be made to City Council except for those applications where the decision of the Planning Commission is final. Anyone who attends the commission public hearing for a specific item will be notified by the city clerk's office of the date on which the city council will consider the application. Susan, would call the roll, please.
Dr. Whibley?
Aye.
Mr. Young?
Here.
Mr. Wells?
Here.
Mr. Pendleton?
Here.
Ms. Van?
Here.
Mr. Bateman?
Here.
And Ms. Sutter.
I am here.
Okay. All right, so before taking up the items on today's agenda, we do have a request for a continuance. The following item has been requested to be continued from today's agenda to the May 28th public hearing. Macondo for the following conditional use permits at 2325 East Little Creek Road. A, restaurant with extended hours. B, live entertainment. C, sale of alcoholic beverages on premise. And D, sale of alcoholic beverages off premise. So the motion is to recommend that the item be continued to the May public hearing. Dr. Whibley?
Aye.
Mr. Young?
Aye.
Mr. Wells?
Aye.
Mr. Pendleton?
Aye.
Ms. Van?
Aye.
Mr. Bateman?
Here.
And Ms. Sutter.
Aye.
Okay, so we will go to our first item. It's number 1 on the continued agenda, Kogan's Pizza for the following conditional use permits. That's not how it's on here. Sorry. For the following conditional use permits at 4311 Colley Avenue. A, restaurant with extended hours. B, sale of alcohol on premise. C, live entertainment, and D, commercial recreation center. The purpose of this request is to allow an existing restaurant to operate with extended hours, provide live entertainment, sell alcoholic beverages for on and off premise. All right. Okay. Okay, as I mentioned, this is Kogan's Pizza. They are in for a conditional use permit. It is located at 4311 Colley Avenue, which is the southwest corner of Colley Avenue and 44th Street. I think you all know Kogan's. They have been around for just past 10 years at this location. What they're proposing to do is to there is a vacant restaurant. It was a little sandwich shop next door, and they want to move into that and do basically an arcade. We call it a commercial recreation center. They also do have, restaurants are allowed to have up to 4 amusement devices in their facility, and they do have those in their facility. Norfolk 2050, it is consistent with Norfolk 2050, which identifies the site as a community mixed use. It is for neighborhood-serving businesses, which are encouraged in that district, and commercial uses are identified as a primary land use. So it complies with Norfolk 2050. Okay, it is Zone CC. And again, the request is to allow the existing restaurant to add on and have a commercial recreation center next door. Again, and because you can get from one to the other, we do a CUP for everything. So you've got a CUP for the restaurant with extended hours, the sale of alcoholic beverages on premise, a live entertainment, and a commercial recreation center. This is a graphic of Kogan's here, and you can see where it says Sam's, that's where they're expanding into, so it's the place right next door. And then on the top part of the slide, that's the existing restaurant, and then the area below is where the arcade or the commercial recreation center would go. And I'll bring this up. So again, there is some legislation now which is focusing on the skill games. As I mentioned, he does have some skill games located in his existing restaurant. The condition reads that, I'm paraphrasing here, that if the legislation ends up allowing them and making them legal, whatever they need to do to make those games legal, he has to do. If they're not legal, he has to remove them. So we think we've covered our bases on that. So the hours of operation, and I put Kogan's current and then what they're proposing, 6 to 2, that's what they have, that's what they're asking for. Live entertainment, same thing. They're keeping that the same. Commercial rec center, so that's the part that's new, and he is doing that a little bit later than his hours of operation for the restaurant. The occupancy hasn't changed, and then for his entertainment for the restaurant, he's keeping the same, but he's also adding trivia. That's everyone seems to be doing trivia now, and eliminating comedian poetry reading. He had that, doesn't use it, so he's eliminating that. So staff is recommending approval. Again, we have an experienced applicant here, operating for nearly 11 years. It doesn't conflict with Plan Norfolk 2050. And again, we know that this part of North Collie is really becoming very vibrant, activated, and we think all of these uses are in keeping with what North Collie is becoming. So again, we are recommending approval with all of the conditions in the staff report, including the one about the skill games. Any questions?
We do have the applicant here, Richard Katz. Would you like to add anything to?
Yeah, she covered it. I mean, I've been operating, I've had location in Kent.
Well, why don't you come on up and start with your name and your address and then tell us about it.
Richard Katz, 205 Regent Road, Norfolk, 23505. I've been operating restaurants in Norfolk for going on 25 years now. This Kogan's location has been there for 11. And while we're doing these adding an arcade, we're keeping the same conditions that we've been operating under with no violations, and working with the planning department all the time. So everybody knows us pretty well.
Where you go, Mr. Katz. Do we have any questions for Mr. Katz? No? All right, thank you for coming out. And we do not have anyone else signed up to speak. So any discussion or questions before we vote? All right, thank you.
The motion is to recommend approval of the conditional use permits, subject to the conditions contained in the staff reports. Dr. Whibley?
Aye.
Mr. Young?
Aye.
Mr. Wells?
Aye.
Mr. Pendleton?
Aye.
Ms. Van?
Aye.
Mr. Bateman?
Aye.
And Ms. Sutter?
Aye, we'll make that recommendation to council. Thank you for coming out.
And next, so we've got a consent agenda. So we're going to vote all of these in one vote. The consent agenda, and they are all the ARB items. So the consent agenda contains an item on 1000 Botetourt Gardens pertaining to Fred Hewitt, an item at 201 East Brambleton, which is Chrysler Hall, 430 Washington Park, and 1180 Llewellyn Avenue. That's the amendments to the Maury High School construction. And Herbie Potts, for conditional use permit to allow the expansion of a non-conforming use at 9466 Mason Creek Road, and that is to allow that fourplex in a single-family district to expand to the rear to add kitchens. And that one, the last one is not ARB, that was a planning commission item. So all of those are on the consent agenda. So the motion would be to recommend,
We don't have any speakers, do we?
Oh, no, we were just determining that the people who signed up are the applicants.
I'm sorry.
Just confirming that. I took a hesitation because it wasn't a name, it was just Mission, et cetera, Virginia Business Trust, and I wasn't sure who that was. But it looks like it's for consent
That's Mr.
agenda number
Potts.
4. I'm
that's
sorry?
Mr. Potts.
That's Mr. Potts. Okay. Thank you.
Okay. All right, so the motion is to recommend approval as presented for the ARB items, and to recommend approval subject to the conditions contained in the staff report for Mr. Potts. Dr. Whibley?
Well, I voiced earlier that I'm very disappointed the swimming pool has been deleted. I realize those are decisions above our pay grade, but aye.
Mr. Young?
Aye.
Mr. Wells?
At the last hearing, I voiced some of my concerns about not just the swimming pool, but some of the elements, canopy and the overhang and some of the sun shade protections. But the architect reached out to me and explained to me what was going on, so I feel quite confident, so I vote aye.
Mr. Pendleton?
Aye.
Ms. Van?
Aye.
Mr. Bateman?
Aye.
Okay. Ms. Soto?
Aye.
All right, going to the regular agenda. City Planning Commission for a zoning text amendment to the Norfolk zoning ordinance to allow a kennel by conditional use permit and the Riverview PCO pedestrian commercial overlay.
Good afternoon, Commission. Susan mentioned this is initiated last month, and this is an amendment to the zoning ordinance to allow kennel in the Riverview pedestrian commercial overlay by conditional use permit. This does come from This does come from a prospective new business owner who wants to open a feline-only kennel on a site located in the Riverview PCO, where the use is not currently permitted. This individual met with the Riverview Business Association and the Riverview Colonial Place Civic League, both of whom support the proposed text amendment. The purpose of the Riverview PCO is to encourage pedestrian-oriented business activity in the commercial corridor along Grammy Street between Lavalette Avenue and the Lafayette River Bridge. The proposal is also consistent with NFK 2050, and there are no proposed changes to the performance standards currently required. This is the proposed text change in the zoning ordinance. Quite simple. And then here's a map overview of the Riverview pedestrian commercial overlay. Any questions?
Any questions or discussion before we vote? No? All right, I think we're ready.
Okay. The motion is to recommend approval of the text amendment to the Riverview PCO. Dr. Whibley?
Aye.
Mr. Young?
Aye.
Mr. Wells?
Aye.
Mr. Pendleton?
Aye.
Ms. Van?
Aye.
Mr. Bateman?
Aye.
And Ms. Sutter?
Aye.
Okay. Item number 2 is Stanley Homes LLC for the following applications at 6303 Granby Street. A conditional change in zoning from INC, institutional campus, to conditional MFAC, multifamily apartment complex. And B, a conditional use permit for any development of more than 24 multifamily dwelling units. The purpose of this request is to allow for the development of a multifamily dwelling unit.
Thanks, Susan. Good afternoon, Commissioners. This site is located on the northwest corner of Kingsley Lane and Granby Street and was previously developed as DePaul Hospital. The proposal for 68 multifamily units is consistent with NFK 2050, which designates the site as sustained suburban. Multifamily large scale is a secondary use in this designation, and the proposal aligns with several goals and actions in the celebrating our community, growing equitably, and embracing nature, and connecting cities chapters of NFK 2050. So, when this site was first came to you guys, when Next Steps to Success came, they rezoned the entire site to conditional INC. This applicant is now looking to rezone this portion of the site, which is the eastern portion, from conditional INC to conditional MFAC. And again, you need a conditional use permit to develop any building with more than 24 dwelling units. So this is the layout of the site. I will go over a little bit each of those areas, A, B, C, D, and E. But in general, we'll go over the architectural in a little bit, but that's the overall site layout with the area to the north, the top of the screen being Next Steps to Success. So in the amenity areas, they're proposing us a playground area here in A, which is the top. And then working our way down, we have more of the traditional apartment complex amenity area with some grills and stuff like that. Area C and D, which are the areas along Granby Street, they're proposing a walkway with some entranceways into the neighborhood, as well as including a bicycle repair station, tire inflation repair station. And then this area E at the corner of Granby Street is the proposed community garden. It would be for the residents of the community to use, and it goes towards their resilience quotient requirements. These are what the elevations look like from the strictly architectural point of view, but we do have some renderings of them. As a reminder, there won't be any vinyl or aluminum siding. It will be fiberboard cement or one of the other materials listed in the design guidelines document that was attached to the staff report. Then this is what the rear will look like for all the buildings. And then these are the new high visibility end units. You can see they've added a couple more windows there in addition to the landscaping that we saw during last public hearing. I've highlighted those areas in green that identify which of the sites are considered, which of the units would be considered the high end visibility ones. It's the 3 on Kingsley and then the 2 on the corner of Granby Street there. I know there was some questions about how this site would look next to Next Steps to Success, so I provided a kind of side-by-side site plan. A little hard to get perfectly right to scale because they weren't done by the same individuals, but you can see there kind of how they'll interact. And I wanted to zoom out a little bit on the site plan because in the previous rendering there was an update to the plan. You can't really see it as well, but they're showing the ball fields just above the top of the screen there, as well as some tennis courts that they've been discussing possibly letting the residents use. And then this is the architectural rendering showing kind of different styles of the buildings from Next Steps to Success and the Stanley Martin Homes project. It is the proposal, sorry. They are a little bit different, but if you look at the other residential nearby on Granby Street and Kingsley Lane, the proposal for these units does match the architectural style of the other residential units nearby, even if it doesn't match exactly to the architectural style of Next Steps to Success. Staff is recommending approval of the application. The use conforms to NFK 2050, and the city needs more housing.
Thank you, Rob. Any questions for Rob? All right, thank you. We do have the applicant here, Chuck McPhillips. And Vince Mastrocco,
We're all together.
I imagine.
Thank you. Good afternoon, Madam
afternoon.
Chairman, members of the commission. My name is Vince Mastrocco. I'm at Kaufman Knowles, 150 West Main Street in Norfolk. I'm actually delighted to be here about this project. This is really so good for the city of Norfolk, creating a neighborhood, and the process was something you really need to know about because someone came into town that hadn't been here. We worked closely with Rob and Susan Pollock, and also with Ms. Perry, with Susan Perry, who really met with us and really talked about housing in general and what was intended. It really was a very, very good process and really very, very productive because we really are. These folks are really creating a neighborhood, not just apartments and those kinds of things. So the whole and working with the design guidelines as aggressively as we did, it really has turned out to be, increased quality, and neighborhood concerns were there, and safety was concerned. So it was really a fine process, and the city is really, we're really thankful for that and the way they dealt with us. As Rob said, this is going to be 68 townhomes basically in the offered for sale in the mid 400s, and they were going to be offered for sale as condos. And basically a lot of attention has been made to, again, to quality, to what's going on in the neighborhood, to open spaces, and to materials. You saw the photograph of the end unit and how, really with help for the staff, that end unit was redesigned to make it really appealing to those that would see it so prominent. I was going to kind of go through some of the things that Rob did about the amenities, which I'm really excited about as you see it. I mean, they addressed children, adults, benches, grills. The one thing that he did show was the community garden, which I think is really a great addition to bring the neighborhood together as it is. And so I was going to go through some of the things that he mentioned to you, but I guess in summary, I would say that we're really fortunate to have folks that, to come into this city, recognize the fine city we have, and particularly in this location, which is, really in the middle of the city. I went to Granby High School and grew up in that
Comments?
area, so it's really delightful for me to be here and recommend this project. Thanks.
But before you leave, thank you,
Oh.
Mr. Mastracco. Any questions
Oh, I'm
for
sorry.
Mr. Mastracco before he sits down?
Yeah,
No. Also a fellow comment here, so
yeah.
thank you for.
I have a question
Oh, you do?
about-
Oh, please do.
I don't know if I'm asking the right person yet or not. It's about the street cuts into Granby Street
Excuse me?
and the access from Granby Street onto the property
No,
itself.
there's no access from Granby Street. There are two access points, one from, I guess, Painter, and then one from Kingsley Lane.
Do we need,
You could be, because the access from
There
Granby
was one
Street.
earlier, I'm thinking it's
Okay.
on
I
the
thought we
site plan.
had the right of way.
It's transportation road.
Oh, the transportation.
I just
we have a
want-
lot of people talking,
Yeah,
and
that
there's
was
only
because
one
the-
microphone.
Because the bike trail there was some question about that.
Right. I just wanted to make sure that it was clear that that Painter Street would not be connected to Granby
Oh, right, all right.
on this.
Yeah,
Thank
that's
you.
That's correct, that's right. Yes.
Great question, thank you. Any other questions for Mr. Mastracco?
Right.
All right, thank you very much. We do have Mr. McPhillips here. Would you like to add anything?
Thank you, Madam Chair.
Certainly.
Fellow Commissioners, Chuck McPhillips, 1543 Cloncurry Road here in Norfolk, the chairman of, Next Step to Success, and the property owners, the property's titled in St. Vincent de Paul House, and the parent is the Barry Robinson Organization, of which I'm the chair. I'm here obviously to advocate for this. This is very important to launching our project. We hope to begin construction by no later than August 1. We're counting on this transaction going forward. The rezoning is so important. Once this rezoning occurs, then we'll have a firm enough situation that we can go ahead and begin our construction of our 10-acre project, which has been through planning and design review, and site plans have been approved. I think building permit is about to be issued, and so we accept bids back by June the 2nd, and all goes well, then we would start construction by August 1. Subject to this rezoning being approved. It's a key part of our plan of finance, so if something happened to this project, then that would throw us back. So I'm here to ask for your approval. We've worked very long and hard, diligently with the good folks at Stanley Martin Homes. Whom we found through a very discerning process. We were very particular in who we would select to be our next door neighbor. We wanted somebody who's going to do a high-quality development for sale, homes, so we have folks, neighbors that we know would have skin in the game, if you will, in terms of being in the neighborhood and contribute to the community, and be the kind of folks who would go to Riverview and Ward's Corner to shop, and also be good neighbors of ours and us to them. And so we were glad to meet them and encourage them to undertake this very first project here in Norfolk, in hopes that this is successful. They're going to take obviously some risk in doing that. First project here, but I think they'll be very successful, and then hope augurs well for further development of owner-occupied homes here in Norfolk, which we desperately need more of, given our tax rate and tax base. So thank you very much.
Before you leave, any questions for Mr. McPhillips?
Are there any stipulations or covenants or whatever that's called about owner, in other words, can these units be rented?
Well, just like any,
I know we have had stipulations in the past maybe that have said they had to be owner occupied.
well, these are for sale units, so they'll all
Right.
be sold by Stanley Martin to individual owners, just like I could rent my house out, or somebody could rent their own house.
That's what I
I don't
was
think we're going
wondering.
to prevent that from happening, but these are fundamentally for sale, market priced, owner occupied homes.
Is there going to be a condo association?
I think technically there would be. These are townhome style, but because they're under the zoning rules, that we have to do it as they actually call it multifamily, but it's townhome style condominiums is what I would describe it as.
I have a question. This might be for Stanley Mark, but I'm sure you can answer it as well. They have, this is first time in their region in Norfolk for them, but they have built quite a bit in Virginia and Commonwealth and Richmond. Is there some place that we might be able to look at that would be compatible to what you're proposing here?
I'm looking over my shoulder at Steve.
Well, I would need him to come up and
Yeah.
speak
Yeah,
if
come on up.
if that would be okay.
I've visited several of them. There's one in particular in Richmond. I would cite as a precedent.
If you'll start with your name and your address. Thank you.
Yes, my name is Steve Miller. I'm with Stanley Martin Homes. Our office is at 11820 Fountain Way in Newport News, Virginia. And we're a 60-year-old company. We started in Maryland. Martin Alloy started the company. His son, Steve Alloy, is still the CEO of the company. So it's very much a family-oriented business through the years. We've been in the Hampton Roads market for 3 years now. We did do one small project in Williamsburg in a neighborhood called Kelton Station back in 2021. But the neighborhoods that Chuck went to see were at Virginia Center Commons, and they were a townhome. They're the same house, but they're very different architecturally because we try to design homes that are going to fit in with the neighborhood. So these have a more traditional feel than the ones that we built at Virginia Center Commons. Those are more contemporary. They've got the black windows and things like that. So it's a different architectural style, but it is a place within an hour or so drive where you could see a sample of what we do. A couple other things that were questions that were put to Chuck. The rental, contractually with the purchase of the property, we felt like it was, Chuck felt like it was important that the homes be for sale to individuals. So everything is going to be for sale to individuals. There will be a condominium association that'll have regulations on the rental of the properties. There won't be any short-term rentals allowed. There'll have to be a minimum of a 6-month term of any initial lease for somebody that goes in there. So there'll be those sorts of restrictions, but there won't be any prohibition on rentals, because then you get into trouble with VA loans and things like that. You know, you start to exclude people from the ability to buy when you have rental restrictions like that. And there will be a condominium association that'll have the same design guidelines that we've submitted for review by staff will be adopted by the condominium association, and they'll ultimately, you know, as the project goes forward after we've sold everything, they'll be responsible for enforcing those architectural regulations.
Does that answer your question, Dr. Whibley? Thank you.
Okay.
Any other questions?
A follow-up question, Mr. Miller.
Sure.
Because I like the product. I'm looking forward to this in our neighborhood. Are all of your units market rate? Is that traditionally?
Yes,
the market
they
rate?
are. They are. And our price range, we expect it to be between the mid 400s to the low 500s. It's a price range for the neighborhood. So we've been working very closely with Chuck because of what they're doing next to us. It's going to be some very nice buildings. We worked really hard on coming up with some architectural guidelines. The windows was just one of the latest additions that we sent over to the planning staff yesterday. We're also going to, proffer in the design guidelines that there would be a minimum amount, a certain amount of brick on the front of every unit so that you have a consistent look within the community, but they're not all the same. We wanted to be able to have the ability so that each building doesn't all look the same as you go down the street, but they're all going to have a minimum level. 60% of the front elevations will be brick. Those that don't have as much brick will have features like a front porch or bay window on it to add interest to the front of the home. So the design guidelines have been a work in process from the very start of the meeting of our working with Chuck.
Appreciate that, and I do appreciate the windows you added to the end units. And,
Yeah.
Chuck has brought forth a brilliant design for what they're doing for Next Steps.
Yes,
So that
they're
you're going to be a
beautiful.
neighbor to that, and I'm hoping that they look like they belong together.
Yeah,
So I'm looking
yeah.
forward to that.
We're really trying
Thanks
to do
for
that.
adding the brick.
Good.
Any other questions?
I do have a question. I think I heard in previous discussions on they'll be built in groupings depending on sale, or are you planning to develop the entire?
We will typically, when you build I'll refer to them as townhomes, but they're condominium ownership. But in terms of the style of construction, they're going to be built like townhomes. So they're all individual 3-story units. They're not any units that are stacked over each other. But as part of a condominium, you have to do it in phases in order for people to move in. And in order for some certain types of financing, you have to have at least 50% of the units in that phase sold So each building will represent one phase of the condominium. So what we'll do is when we go in there and open up, we'll probably start 2 buildings. And then when we've reached the sales threshold in one of the buildings, we'll start to close those units and move people in there and continue to sell into the next building and then start a 3rd building as we're finishing up the sales in the first building. So it just is kind of a progression like that as we go through the community. But we won't go in there and start all 15 or however many buildings there are at one time, like you would see for an apartment community. And the amenities will come in kind of paced the same way because it's a relatively small site. You know, some of the areas where we show the amenities, once we have the buildings built on all sides of that amenity, we'll put the amenities in. Or if there's an amenity like the garden area, that can go in earlier because that's not really got as much construction close to it. So those things will be phased as we go through the community.
Thank you. Any other questions? All right, thank you
Thank you
very
very
much.
much.
And those are all of our folks signed up to speak. Any discussion or any questions for staff before we vote? All right, thank you.
The motion is to recommend approval of the change of zoning, subject to the proffered conditions, and they are that they would be tied to the architectural graphics and to the design guidelines that they referred, and that the conditional use permit be approved subject to the conditions contained in the staff report, which includes the layout of the site. Okay, so subject to that. Dr. Wigley?
Aye.
Mr. Young?
Aye.
Mr. Wells?
Aye.
Mr. Pendleton?
Aye.
Ms. Van?
Aye.
Mr. Bateman?
Aye.
And Ms. Sutter.
Aye, we'll make that recommendation to council. Thank you for coming out.
Okay. 3, Burger King for the following conditional use permits at 1,000 Tidewater Drive. A drive-through facility, large scale. B, extended hours. The purpose of these requests is to allow the existing restaurant to operate after 11 o'clock p.m. and add a second lane for the drive-through facility, large scale.
Thanks, Susan. This site is located on the northeast corner of Virginia Beach Boulevard and Tidewater Drive between the Brambleton and Bruce's Park neighborhoods. The proposal is consistent with NFK 2050, which designates the site as innovation and production. Commercial and retail is a secondary use in this place type. The community mixed-use place type should encourage workers and students to access supporting amenities such as food, retail, and open space without needing to drive elsewhere. Property zone CC, it also lies within the CRO, the Coastal Residence Overlay. In this district, you need a conditional use permit to operate a restaurant with extended hours and to operate a drive-through facility large scale. So here you can see a picture of the site. I know we talked a little bit downstairs about some of the improvements, but you can kind of see in the site picture here on the left-hand side how wide that entryway is. And on the right is just another picture of where that drive-through is. We did end up going on that field trip during one of the busiest times of the day, right around lunchtime, which is why you see so many vehicles there. During the mid-month meeting, there was a question about how long Burger King was planning to operate their facility, but the dining area, the drive-through. The dining area, they usually have open from 6 a.m. to 9 p.m., and the drive-through would be open 24 hours a day, 7 days a week. In the conditions for the staff report, we did say 10 p.m., just to provide a little bit more flexibility, but this is the hours that the applicant gave us. This is the landscaping plan. As you can see, there's going to be a lot of landscaping improvements that are going to be done on this site. And then the different items from the mid-month meeting show the top area there, the dumpster, there was a walkway there, but to minimize the conflicting points between walkers, employees, pedestrians, and vehicles, that walking lane was removed. And then you can see the big section there on the bottom is the right-of-way. It's the increase in the width of that sidewalk that goes right to Burger King's side door to Virginia Beach Boulevard from 4 feet to 5 feet, making it ADA compliant, and removing that step down that goes from the sidewalk to the other sidewalk. And then you'll also see the narrowing of the driveway apron. These are the elevations. After we reviewed the elevations, we did notice that based on these renderings, it's a little too much signage, but the condition in the staff report does state that they will comply with the requirement of the zoning ordinance. Staff does recommend approval. The proposed use conforms to NFK 2050, and the site is located along an auto-oriented corridor. And as Susan said downstairs, staff's recommendation is a 24-month time period to do the right-of-way improvements.
Any questions for Rob? No, thank you. We do have a representative for the applicant here, Mr. Rosé. Please start with your name and your address, please.
Good afternoon, Madam Chair, members of the Planning Commission. My name is Tyler Rosé, local attorney with the law firm Williams Mullen. Business address is 222 Central Park Avenue, Suite 1700, Virginia Beach, Virginia. I want to thank staff for the hard work on the application. It's been a great experience working with them. A lot of thoughtful comments, especially with respect to the off-site improvements. We think it's going to result in a really quality product, definitely improve accessibility to the site as well. So this particular location has operated as a Burger King since 1974, has undergone several renovations and remodels over the years, and this project is the next step in that improving the site and improving customer service. So as shown on the elevations, we're modernizing the building. We're going to be using the current conceptual, the most modern concept plan for the building elevations, the prototype design, and then also improving and expanding the drive-through lanes to allow for better circulation and customer service. As you saw, that that drive-through lane can get pretty backed up during busy hours, so this will allow for more turnover of customers, and I'll have 2 lanes with 2 ordering facilities to allow for better throughput. We're also going to be improving the site landscaping. There's I think pretty minimal landscaping on the site currently. We're going to have exterior perimeter trees and also internal trees within the parking lot, as shown on the site plan. And as I mentioned, Rob mentioned the off-site improvements of expanding the sidewalk and removing the curve for ADA compliance and narrowing the drive aisle, the driveway to allow for increased pedestrian and vehicular access. In reviewing the conditions, and we do appreciate the staff providing that additional 2-year accommodation for building the off-site improvements. And as Susan mentioned during the formal meeting, that this construction and this project is part of kind of a larger regional plan to help remodel and revise a lot of these different Burger Kings. So there's logistics involved, construction timelines, financing, a lot of personal or private capital considerations that go into that. So in terms of the current condition, 2D, it says the right-of-way improvement shall commence 24 months after the effective date of the ordinance. And so given kind of the timing and market conditions, as I'm sure you can appreciate, they're not the most stable market conditions, and there's a lot of different considerations out there. The applicant will request that 2-year time commence on commencement of the construction of the on-site improvements rather than the effective date of the ordinance. That would allow them to ensure that they're doing the off-site site work at the same time they're doing the on-site site work, and they just don't want to be having a situation where they're obligated to do the off-site site work where they're not either prepared or ready to do the on-site construction. And obviously within the conditional use permit ordinance, there's a requirement that the construction commence within a year. So we're also going to request an additional condition to allow us up to 3 years after the date of the effective date of the ordinance to commence construction and use of the property. We fully expect to commence within the next year. It's just given there's a lot of internal unknowns at Burger King and then kind of the scope of the project and allocating resources and things of that nature. So Burger King was just requesting some flexibility in order to allow them to make sure that the project commences on a realistic timeline that would allow them to do the on-site and off-site improvements at the same time. So the 2 modifications would be to modify 2D to have 24 months from the commencement of the on-site improvements, and then a general term extension to allow the use permit to remain valid for 3 years after the effective date, and to allow us to commence construction and use within that time period. So I proposed kind of some sample language to staff. It was frankly this morning when it came up with the client. We were reviewing the conditions, and they raised that as a concern. But so I appreciate the staff entertaining my Hail Mary here at the last minute. But so those would be the requests. But we think that otherwise, this is a great project allowing to modernize an existing use and improve customer service and site accessibility with some quality off-site improvements as well. But given kind of the uncertain economic environments and the scope of the project and the general considerations involved, we would request recommendation of approval with those modifications to the conditions.
And I understand that part. I think 2 years for the improvement once you're able to get started makes sense. But as far as 3 years to get started, that seems like a long time. I can't imagine that prices are going to go down.
Right.
So I guess you believe that you can have it done within 12 months, but you want that additional 2-year cushion?
Correct, yeah. So in talking with Burger King, they fully expect to commence construction within the year, but I guess, and I'm not privy to all the internal kind of discussions and the market conditions, and, they really change hour by hour. And so they just, given kind of that this will be an integrated part of several developments, if they could build flexibility into a portion of it, they were hoping to be able to. But obviously understand your comment on that point.
Any other comments or questions from the commission?
So, I'm sorry, you want a year to be able to build the whole thing?
We would request 3 years from the effective
No,
date.
I'm not asking about starting. I'm saying, once you've started, how much time do you need to finish it?
Oh, it would be just a matter of months, I would assume. I mean,
My concern is that it's a construction project for a long time. So how long would it be a construction project?
I'm not entirely sure of the construction timeline, but I think they would be able to complete it within a matter of months. I mean, I can get a specific number on the
Isn't that
construction
something
time.
we often put in or not? Is that stipulated?
Typically not. We would, it would be subject to a permit approval that they have. So typically for work of this nature, with the widening of the sidewalk and the narrowing of the driveway entrance, that's a I don't want to say normal construction work that can be done without significant mobilization. So that's probably a couple months at tops. The landscaping may take more time, but we normally are flexible with people because of planting season, so.
Mr. Wells?
Yeah, I understand your concern. Dealing with a nationwide, they're moving faster than we could even move. They're going to try to do this as fast as possible. So I don't have a concern about their construction timeline, but their delay, and it makes sense. You want to have some leniency on when you would start it. So I'm in favor of both.
Well, okay, so it sounds like we're considering at this point. And if anyone has any questions for Mr. Rosé, we can call him back up. I just didn't want you to stand there.
No
while
problem. Thank you for your time.
Okay. So we have 2 requests. It seems like giving them the time frame of 3 years to begin construction. And then the second request is allowing 2 years for the improvements.
In addition. After the 3 years, so. yeah.
Right, so we're talking like 5 years.
5 years.
If they wait till
Right.
2 years and 11 months to start, then the improvements wouldn't be.
But both of those have to do with when they're starting. It has nothing to do with the length of construction.
Right.
Correct? Yes, so.
So currently, there is a Burger King, and it will remain the way it is potentially for 3 years before construction begins. And then they have the 2 years.
Correct. So they would not be able to implement the second drive-through lane, which is what the request is for, until and then they would have to do all the rest of the work associated with that in order to do it. So the timeline, they could still operate just as is, and essentially the applicant's asking for more time to activate this conditional use permit, to add so that's the 3-year. The applicant's asking for additional time to activate, and then the time to implement after that.
Is there anything in the staff conditions or that would be time limiting?
The current condition says from the adoption of the ordinance, because it's not it doesn't move for staff. It makes it easy for us to know when they have to have everything done. And so the condition says from the adoption of the ordinance, they have 2 years to finish the improvements.
Precedent for this?
I will say, I don't know off the top of my head, but staff does prefer something that's not moving for us to know when we're supposed to enforce. That's the important part. But again, this is up to the commission for the recommendation for the flexibility of the use.
believe somebody stated this, if they're starting construction, they're going to be doing a lot at once, which can include both portions. So could we not just do 3 years from the ordinance for both?
I think all that's available to the commission as a amendment. You may want to speak with the applicant again.
Yeah. Mr. Rosé?
So you're basically saying
Instead of
Cleaner
saying
for staff.
3 and 2, just 3.
you have 3
For
years to
both, yeah.
start and finish.
And I will admit, it was a bit of an iterative process in sending those dual conditions, so that's kind of what I had in my notes. But yeah, I think, because originally we had requested the 2 years from the commencement of construction, and then Rob brought to our attention the 1-year limitation, so then we were trying to expand it. So I think tying it all into 3 years would probably make sense as well, because, yeah, I mean, they're going to be doing everything at once, and I think the 2-year accommodation was really to give us more time to do the off-site improvements, because I think they were going through Public Works and trying to understand exactly what those requirements, I guess, in design would be there. So I think that would be sufficient based on kind of my understanding of what the progress of the construction, how it's going to unfold, and I think their concerns on timing. So I think that would be acceptable.
Thank
So
you.
so it would just be commencement, the use permit will last for 3 years and commence construction, including the offsite improvements? I guess that's kind of the idea. Okay.
So it sounds like, oh, go ahead, please.
I believe that's what Mr. Young is proposing. Yes.
Mhm. Would you like to make that motion, Mr.
Yes.
Young? And I second it. I don't know if that's sufficient.
I'll try, is it okay if you want me to try to word it, Susan?
I'm
You got it.
sorry.
I'm trying to find the condition
Okay,
as we have it in
What's
here.
So just in the language, would it be we have 3 years to complete the construction or 3 years to commence the construction and use of the property?
I think it was complete.
It was complete?
Mhm.
Okay.
Start and complete.
Starting complete within the 3 years? Okay. Yeah, I think we can live with that.
Yeah, so the condition was the right-of-way improvements as shown on Exhibit B, site plan shall be completed within, we had 2 years of the effective date of this ordinance. We would change that to 3.
Yeah, and that presumed the building being completed within a year, right? Then, under the general condition, the 1-year construction. Okay, so 3 years to complete everything. Okay.
Did you need so I just want to make sure, because I think Mr. Young was trying to say, give you 3 years to activate and 3 years to complete.
Yeah,
Are
that's
you
what I
okay?
was trying to confirm here. Yeah, so basically 3 years that the use permit we would have 3 years to commence construction, commence the use, and complete construction, I think is kind of the, yeah, so within 3 years from the effective date of the ordinance, it needs to be
Not 3 and
completed.
3.
Right.
But
Just
it's
one,
3
three.
years, it's done.
3 years.
He's saying
No, he's saying.
He's saying 3.
He's saying
6.
3.
Like what he said.
Oh,
So we're saying,
we're clear. We're saying 3 years.
Period.
yeah.
Period.
From the adoption of the ordinance, he has 3 years to complete everything. I don't think that's what.
That's what he just.
He's agreeing to it.
Because the 2 year, and again, I may need to confer with my client a bit further on that, but the 3 years would be, because we were requesting 2 years to activate, or 3 years to activate and commence construction. And then we'd have 2 years to the offsite improvements. Yeah. Could we do 4 years?
Is it
Just-
possible for you
Yeah.
just to come back when you're
Yeah,
ready to
I-
go?
Yeah,
so.
well,
I mean, I'm just thinking it's just so weird that we're dealing with 5 years. God knows what we could be
Yeah, I mean,
in then. Just come back when you're ready.
Yeah,
I'll have it your way.
yeah, they're trying to mobilize and they have this in the queue, and so they want to proceed, so.
Oh, I totally understand, but now we're kind of negotiating. and
Yeah, understood.
This feels like a target that
Yeah,
keeps
I mean, I
moving.
think the 3-year condition makes sense, yeah.
Okay.
Because given kind of the scope of the issues, they want flexibility, but I think they can mobilize if needed. So, and if there's an issue, I think we can maybe address it after the planning commission, I suppose, but, or come back and revisit the condition as well. So, but I think
You're not wanting to come back, you want us to just make a motion to do this whole thing in 3 years?
I think that would be sufficient.
Make
Yeah.
the motion. Someone
moved.
Is that,
There's your motion.
you're used to commitments.
We're working on crafting the
But I
conditions,
still,
so,
I think they want everything done in 3 years. I don't think they want.
correct, but
Activated. All right.
How we're looking?
All right, so first we're going to have a motion on this, on this. All right, so the motion is the right-of-way improvements as shown on Exhibit B site plan shall be activated and in 3 years and completed within 3 years of the effective date of the ordinance.
That sounds,
That-
Activated
okay.
and complete.
well, I think you said activated and then completed. Should it be,
the
it'll be
activations,
activated from the ordinance and completed within 3 years?
the activation is the conditional use permit,
Mm-hmm.
okay? But regardless, they still need to finish the work within 3 years.
Yes.
So that's the intent of that condition. If we need to massage it later, we will massage it, but that is the intent of the condition.
That's what we all think it is.
That's what we think it is.
Okay, all right, so for that motion, I was on the right page.
All right.
All right,
Thank you very much. Appreciate the patience.
Dr. Whibley.
Aye.
Mr. Young.
Aye.
Mr. Wells.
Aye.
Mr. Pendleton.
Aye.
Ms. Van.
Aye.
Mr. Bateman.
Aye.
And Ms. Sutter.
Aye.
All right, now with all of the conditions, including the modified condition, staff recommends the request be approved, subject to the conditions and the modified condition. Dr. Whibley.
Aye.
Mr. Young.
Aye.
Mr. Wells.
Aye.
Mr. Pendleton.
Aye.
Ms. Van.
Aye.
Mr. Bateman.
Aye.
And Ms. Sutter.
Aye. We'll make that recommendation to council.
Right. Number 5, Nellie's Brine and Grind for the following conditional use permits at 2330 Bowden's Ferry Road. A restaurant with extended hours. B, live entertainment. C, sale of alcoholic beverages on premise. The purpose of this request is to allow a restaurant to operate with extended hours, provide live entertainment, and sell alcohol for on-premise consumption.
Thanks, Susan. The site is located on the southeast corner of West 25th Street and Bowden's Ferry Road in the Lamberts Point neighborhood. The site formerly operated as Sanctuary, which obtained a conditional use permit to operate a restaurant with live entertainment and extended hours of operation in 2020. Proposal is consistent with NFK 2050, which designates the site as mixed use. Commercial is a primary use in this district. The property is on conditional CC. In this district, you need a conditional use permit to have a restaurant with extended hours, to have live entertainment, and to sell alcoholic beverages for on-premise consumption after 5 p.m. Here's a picture of the site. So the site is going to be 2 buildings. The building in the back of the picture on the left is the original Sanctuary Taco from 2020. You'll be hearing from them as they're moving to a new location. But they're also going to incorporate the building in the front there on the left side. So this is what the applicant is proposing to the site to look like. You'll notice that, again, Nellie's, it has two areas, and then they're going to have that area in between on the back left side be a stage. The shipping container will get a building permit, and certified by an engineer, because they're not designed to be stages. But that'll all be handled, and then they're going to use that space in between. This is the floor plan for each site. So Sanctuary was open from 6 a.m. to 2 a.m. 7 days a week. Nellie's was requesting 11 to 10 Monday through Thursday, 11 to 2 on Friday, 7:30 a.m. till 2 a.m. on Saturday, and 7:30 a.m. until 10 p.m. on Sunday. The request also includes a 2 o'clock closing on New Year's Eve. The hours for live entertainment, indoor, outdoor, and the open space area is 11 a.m. to 10 p.m. Monday through Thursday, 11 to midnight Friday, 11 to midnight Saturday, and 7:30 to midnight on Saturday, and 7:30 until 10 o'clock on Sunday. So even if they don't have entertainment in that outdoor area, they still do intend to use it. They're not sure exactly how they're going to program it yet, but they do want that the area will be open even if there's no entertainment. For seating capacity, Sanctuary had 42 seats indoors, 72 seats outdoors for a total capacity of 150. Nellie's is proposing 72 seats indoors, 80 seats outdoors, and 225 total capacity. And again, the difference in that number being so large is the use of that additional outdoor space, but also the addition of the second building. Sanctuary just had live band as a form of entertainment. Nellie's is requesting live band, trivia, game nights, and movie nights. Staff does recommend approval of the application. The use conforms with NFK 2050, and the proposed use is located near similar uses. Stand by for any questions.
Questions for Rob? Thank you. We do have the applicant here, Thomas Fox. Hello. Mr. Fox, if you would begin with your name and your address, please.
My name is Thomas Fox. I'm at 1036 Larchmont Crescent, Norfolk 23508. I don't have a lot to say. We're excited about another project there in the rail yard. I own Fish and Pig in the Railroad District, and with the previous owner of the Freight House Coffee right around the corner. So, very excited.
Any questions for Mr. Fox? All right. Thank you for coming out. Awesome. Do we have a discussion or any questions for staff before we vote? All right, I think we're ready.
The motion is to recommend approval of the conditional use permits, subject to the conditions contained in the staff report. Dr. Whibley?
Aye.
Mr. Young?
Aye.
Mr. Wells?
Aye.
Mr. Pendleton?
Aye.
Ms. Van?
Aye.
Mr. Bateman?
Aye.
And Ms. Sutter.
Aye, we'll make that recommendation to council. Thank you for coming out.
Okay. Sanctuary for the following conditional use permits at 218 and 220 West 25th Street. A restaurant with extended hours. B, live entertainment. C, sale of alcoholic beverages on premise. And D, sale of alcoholic beverages off premise. The purpose of this request is to allow a restaurant to operate with extended hours, provide live entertainment, and sell alcohol for on and off premises.
Hi, good afternoon. This site is located on West 25th Street between Omohundro and Llewellyn Avenue. The existing conditions are vacant. It was formerly Union Taco, and the proposal is to allow the restaurant with extended hours, live entertainment, and the sale of alcoholic beverages for on and off premises consumption. It is consistent with Norfolk 2050, which designates the site as community mixed use. Norfolk 2050 encourages neighborhood serving businesses in this district and retail and commercial as a primary land use. It is zoned industrial light and is in the Norfolk and Western Historic Overlay and the Coastal Resilience Overlay. The request again is the conditional use permit for extended hours, live entertainment, and alcoholic beverages on and off premises. Here is a photo of the site. On the right and on the left is their outdoor area. There is their floor plan. And as far as the hours, I guess previously Union Taco was open from 11 a.m. until 10 p.m. Sunday to Thursday, and 11 a.m. until 11 p.m. Friday and Saturday. Sanctuary will be open 6 a.m. until 10 p.m. Sunday through Thursday, and 6 a.m. until 12 midnight Friday through Saturday. The capacity was 65 seats indoors, 13 bar seats, 49 outdoors, with a total of 135, and that will be the same for Sanctuary. With Union Taco, their entertainment hours had been 11 a.m. until 10 p.m. 7 days per week. And with Sanctuary, it will be 6 a.m. until 10 p.m. Sunday through Thursday, 6 a.m. until 12 midnight Friday through Saturday, and then outdoors, they will be limited until 10 p.m. 7 days per week. And the entertainment will be live music, trivia, karaoke, and comedy. Staff recommends approval. The proposed use conforms to Norfolk 2050 and is replacing a very similar use. The applicant has operated another location without issue, and again, the outdoor entertainment will end at 10 p.m., 7 days per week. Are there any questions?
Questions for Alyssa? All right, thank you. We do have the applicant here, Adolph Franco. Mr. Franco, if you would, please start with your name and your address, please.
Hi, my name is Adolph Franco. I live at 813 Shirley Avenue here in Norfolk, Virginia. I've worked with Trey Hanna, the owner of Sanctuary, for the last 3 years. She's operated 2 restaurants previous. Of course, the one you just saw before at the rail yard, we're moving to this bigger location, and then he's got one that he's opened for 8 years, I do believe now, in downtown in the Neon District. We're just taking this opportunity to expand into a bigger location as a great opportunity for us to have more entertainment and have more seating and serve a better population. Lambert's Point is a great place, but unfortunately it's tucked back in an area where not everybody sees you.
Any questions for Mr. Franco? All right, thank you very much.
Thank you.
Trey Hannah, would you like to add anything? No, ma'am. Okay, thank you for coming out. Richard Katz, I have you signed up as a proponent? He already? He did leave already? Okay. Well, thank you. And we do have an opponent, Priscilla Davenport. Hi, Ms. Davenport. If you would start with your name and your address, please.
I'm Priscilla Davenport. My address is 223 West 26th Street. I am the owner of that home, and that is my permanent resident. Madam Commissioner, if you would indulge me, I had some pictures printed out where this place is, and I have an arrow where my house is. When Union Taco operated this place, I could not go into my bedroom because of the loud noise. They closed the restaurant, but this open area for live entertainment, people were out there until after 3 p.m. So I had to sleep on my couch. I'm 76 years old, and I still work. And on the week, I don't work on the weekends, so that is my time to rest. I'm raising great-grandchildren in my home, and I just would like this place not to be open all hours of the night. Okay, they shut the restaurant, but this what happened with Union Taco. They were drinking, loud music, da-boom, 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 guitars and stuff going on all way after 12 o'clock at night. And at this point, I have a measure of health. I have an aortic thoracic aneurysm, and I'm still trying to go on. But my home, I can't run. I can't leave. I've paid for this property. It took me 26 years to pay for this house. I purchased it at 50 years old. I did not think I would live long enough to complete the payment on it, but I did. And I would just like to have my home in peace.
Thank you. Before you leave, I'd like to see if there's any questions. Thank you for coming out today, Ms. Davenport.
Ms. Davenport, thank you. Thank you for coming down. The previous owners are not the applicants here.
I understand that.
But I'm curious, with the previous owners, did you ever have any conversation with them?
I certainly did.
And did you ever call police or call for service to
No, but
have those things shut down?
I did not, but where I work, the owners, I work at a private bed and breakfast on York Street, and she told me to come to the planning commission, and I probably could seek some help there because we have live entertainment there at my job, but they have to shut down at 9 o'clock. And mostly everybody on my street are seniors, and we own our houses. A lot of them, and my neighbor's blind. My neighbor across the street, her husband has Alzheimer's, so she's stuck in it. We're just kind of like stuck where we are.
I'm just looking through your pictures.
So you're back of your house?
Right there where you see that arrow point, that is my house. That is my bedroom.
Okay.
That gray building. The only thing that's separating is an old tin thing. It's not even a brick wall.
Thank you. Any other questions? I know your time is up, but I think we took some time to look at the pictures.
I appreciate it.
So I just wanted to ask if anyone has any other questions for Ms. Davenport.
I don't have a question for Ms. Davenport. I appreciate you. I did go out to look at the site. I do have a question for Mr. Franco, if he'd like to come back up.
Thank you.
Thank you so much.
Ms. Davenport, we're heading into the word I'm looking for, rebuttal section of our hearing. So we'll call you back up, okay? Thank you. Mr. Franco.
Yes, sir.
What would you propose to alleviate some of the sound attenuation coming through the back there? I mean, it's kind of open right to her back.
It is. We would have to ask the property owner about possibly putting a brick wall in there. Other than that, I don't know exactly what we could do without having to, of course, get a whole building permit and change the property plans. You know, that is outside of our ability to do right now. I mean, I can't speak to what Union Taco did at 3, but I do know myself as the manager of the restaurant, when we close, everybody leaves. You know, we're not hanging out till 3 in the morning. I wouldn't allow that from my staff.
Your 10 o'clock is 10 o'clock.
It's 10 o'clock, yes, sir.
And that seemed okay with her. It was just that they were going till 3 a.m. So we need his word. I don't know how you get people
Like I said,
out
I
there.
guarantee you, one, I don't want people hanging out at the restaurant that
wouldn't
late.
either.
It's after hours. We're not allowed to sell alcohol, let alone have employees there drinking. I'm not even keen to that when they just get off the clock and sit there and hang out at the restaurant. I'd prefer you go ahead and go home and go eat dinner and drink somewhere else.
Well, more importantly, I mean, we need enforcement.
Yeah, we need.
So somebody needs to come and check. I
Yeah.
appreciate your concern, but for this woman, she needs to have somebody checking to make sure. And were you to continue having noise at 3 o'clock, I would really encourage you to let us know, because that needs to be enforced.
I agree.
I wouldn't even wait till 3 in the morning.
Right, yeah, I wouldn't either.
Well, you
yeah.
know what I mean is, if it's being abused, you need to let us know.
And I might even suggest exchanging telephone numbers.
Yeah, totally.
But
Yeah, because you probably want to know if somebody's on your property and
Definitely.
you don't know, yeah.
Yeah, yeah.
All right.
Because I live the other end of 25th Street off Collie, and, you know, I'll come right down there and check that out if somebody's there at that time of night.
Madam Chair, may I ask a question of Mr. Franco?
Please do.
Mr. Franco, just to understand your operations for the outdoor area, I know we say 10 p.m. for entertainment. Do you plan on having people dine outside until?
Not usually, well, in the operation that we've run mostly, we don't usually ever have people there till midnight. Usually we're winding down by 10 p.m. anyways, indoors and outdoors. You know, this is the first time we're trying to even have entertainment. So in our past history, like when we do the trivia nights or any of the other stuff, it's done by 9:30 and everybody's usually gone by 10.
Would you be willing to shut down your outdoor dining by 10 p.m. just to
Yeah,
for
I
the
don't.
time being?
Yeah, I could see we could fix that out. I don't see a problem with that.
That seems like that would be helpful.
And does it require for the garage door to be closed? Like especially on the nights where they're open till 12 a.m.?
Yes, the condition, I believe, is in there. Is that the same? It's not?
Yeah, there was something in the cup that mentioned about the garage door being closed when entertainment was in the building.
Okay, I was just trying to verify that.
Because there's an apartment complex across the street from us as well.
We're looking.
Yeah, no problem.
It's already.
Because I do believe the cup says anytime we have music, we can't have the door open and music blaring out into the streets.
Mm-hmm.
That condition should be in the report. Unfortunately, it's not. So we will need to make sure that we add that into this as well, because that is a standard one that we have for those that have the garage doors. I believe we spoke about it. I think I missed putting it in here, so.
Maybe it was just no propping doors open, is what it
Correct.
says in there.
That's typical.
And I took that to be the garage door as well.
It's still the same.
Yeah.
That's how it was enforced before, but we have a more clear condition that says that it shall be closed, so.
Okay.
Any other questions for Mr. Franco? All right, thank you,
All right,
Mr.
thank you.
Franco. Of course, and I hope you'll switch numbers with Ms. Davenport when you're available. Ms. Davenport, you can speak more if you'd like. Okay.
He spoke on the apartment complex across the street from
Yes,
the
ma'am.
place. That complex is housing for homeless people and drug addicts. And they're often outside, hanging outside anyway. So they some hanging out people too.
Well, Ms. Davenport, what we just talked about, does that sound like it'll be a solution for you where they will stop entertainment at 10 p.m. and outdoor entertainment at 10 p.m. and no outdoor dining after 10 p.m.? So everyone will be inside, including the entertainment.
That sounds reasonable for me. It's the outside entertainment that bothers me.
Yes, ma'am.
It's nothing to stop the noise from coming into my home.
And I think that we talked a bit with Mr. Franco about exchanging numbers. So if something is going on at his restaurant at, past 10 o'clock, you can give him a call. And then also, you can also call, the police
That would be fine.
for a noise ordinance.
Oh, that would be fine.
Is that okay?
Yes.
Okay. All right. And I'm sorry, we were into the rebuttal portion, and so I'm sorry, I'm talking to someone beyond you.
That's okay. That's okay. Thank you for listening.
No, thank you very much for coming out this evening. Yeah, okay. Any other questions or discussion before we go to a vote? All right, Susan, thank you. They weren't signed up to, Mr. Franco, well, you were signed up to speak, but you decided not to, and so we already went into the rebuttal phase, but I do thank you for coming out. Susan.
All right, so the motion is to recommend approval of the conditional use permit, subject to revised conditions that the outdoor dining will be closed by 10 o'clock p.m., 7 days a week, and that the garage door must be closed when entertainment is provided indoor. Dr. Whibley?
Aye.
Mr. Young?
Aye.
Mr. Wells?
Aye.
Mr. Pendleton?
Aye.
Ms. Van?
Aye.
Mr. Bateman?
Aye.
And Ms. Sutter.
Aye. We'll make that recommendation to council. Thank you for coming out.
Item number 7, Adams Outdoor Advertising for a conditional use permit to allow an outdoor advertising sign at 5609 East Princess Anne Road. The purpose of this request is to convert an existing outdoor advertising sign to an LED electronic display.
Thank you, Susan. Location of the site, south side of East Princess Anne Road, near North Military Highway. This is just west of the Northampton Boulevard Military Highway intersection. Existing conditions, it's currently a non-LED outdoor advertising sign, and the proposal to convert an existing outdoor advertising sign to an LED electronic display. Proposed use does not conflict with NFK 2050, which designates the site as sustained suburban. It's also consistent with the military highway plan, as the billboard is already in place and there are no major changes to the size or location. Zoning is CC Community Commercial. A CUP is required when changing the sign face, including conversion to an LED electronic display. Here are 2 pictures of the site. The first picture to the left is traveling east towards the military highway, Northampton intersection, and the second picture is looking west, kind of towards the residential. You can see the sign in both pictures. In 2017, the billboard was relocated here in conjunction with the North Military Highway intersection project. The sign face will be shifted 4.5 feet away from the roadway to comply with the 20-foot required setback. The applicant has also agreed to a condition prohibiting the western face, kind of as you see in the second picture, from being illuminated LED to residential to the west. So it would just be a static display on that western face. Here's a picture of the site plan. Landscaping will also be added to the base of the sign as a condition, and you can kind of see that in the red circle on the picture to the left, or to the right. Staff recommends approval, subject to the conditions in the staff report. Lake Taylor Civic League does support the application, and I did receive 1 letter of opposition to based on the proximity to the residential, and that the LED electronic side would face a continuous flow intersection of the Military Highway Northampton intersection, and would be in a sight line of drivers making that left turn from Northampton onto Military. And they've also had issues with wrong-way drivers due to that confusing intersection. So that was our concern, basically a traffic safety concern.
Has the traffic department weighed in on the sign?
It's a VDOT, would be a VDOT. VDOT is aware of the project. I have talked to them about the zoning and compliance. I have not heard any opposition from them.
Thank you. Any other questions for Andrew? All right, thank you. We do have the applicant here, Ted Sorrell. I apologize if I mispronounced your name. Will you please start with your name and your address, please?
Yes, ma'am. My name is Ted Sorrell. Our office is at 5547 East Virginia Beach Boulevard here in Norfolk. First, I'd like to thank the planning staff and the Lake Taylor Civic League unanimously supported it. After working with planning staff and engaging with the surrounding community, we're happy to make the decision to convert only one side of the billboard, the side that's not facing the residential area. From a visual standpoint, the structure itself will look virtually the same as it does today. It's going to shift over further from the road to make it conforming. The only difference is the face is going to change every 8 seconds now. The display will not flash, glare, or create a disruption to the surrounding community, nor will it distract drivers. We saw a copy of the opposition a few hours ago. I was able to find a study produced by the Department of Transportation that digital billboards do not pose any distraction to drivers compared to static billboards. I shared that with the planner a couple hours ago, so it's not part of the packet. A few public benefits of converting the static billboard to digital. A digital display allows us to quickly share emergency information such as Amber Alerts, weather warnings, traffic updates, etc. It also expands our ability to support local nonprofits. It makes it easier to provide space for public service announcements. With a standard static billboard, we do not have that flexibility to do emergency alerts, Amber Alerts, work with nonprofits the way we'd like to. The landscaping plan was mentioned. We're committed to enhancing the site as well. A little bit more about Adams as a company, if you're not familiar with us. We are the largest billboard company in Hampton Roads. We employ about 40 people who live, raise their family, work here, mostly in Norfolk. 80% of our advertisers are local businesses. People are often surprised to hear that. So we consider ourselves a partner with a lot of local businesses here and consider ourselves a value driver to those businesses. Finally, again, I want to thank planning staff and the Lake Taylor Civic League. I was happy to meet with them a few months ago and answer their questions, and happy to answer any questions you may have this afternoon.
I do have a question.
Yep.
As far as light pollution, with the LED portion facing west, do I have that correct? West? East? Facing traffic.
Yes.
So there's no risk of illumination that could affect the surrounding neighborhoods, specifically Lansdale and Fox Hall?
Yes, ma'am. The side of the billboard that's facing the residential area is going to remain the way it is. It is the other side that's facing the more commercial area that's going to be LED, and it is dimmed mightily at night. We don't want to spend the money having a big glowing thing at night. If it's a little glow at all at night, you can read it. So it is dimmed a lot. Technology's come a long way since LEDs made their first appearance about 15, 20 years ago. So they're very efficient. They dim. We use technology so they face traffic more than they face upwards, downwards, side to side. Yeah, light pollution should not be an issue.
Thank you. Any other questions?
I'm curious about, go ahead. I'm curious about the Amber Alerts. You have a connection with VDOT? They're giving you all this information? I mean, how does that work? That a billboard now all of a sudden becomes a alert for weather or Amber Alert?
So we actually work with the FBI, and we are part of a network so that Amber Alerts go up onto billboards pretty quickly. I like to use that example, actually, because a lot of us get the notifications on our phone when there's an Amber Alert, and I don't know about y'all, but I don't run outside and look for that white sedan. But if you're in traffic and you look up and you see a billboard that says, look out for a white sedan, you might look to your left and your right, and that's not in theory. We've actually helped solve cases, and we won an award in North Carolina a few years ago for helping out as well. We're also part of the Crime Solvers community. I think all 7 cities are a part of that. So it's another PSA example we do on our digital displays only because it's remote. We can do it from a monitor in our office and put up, this is wanted or this is a case. Most recently, there was a jewelry heist in Chesapeake, and we put up a wanted poster for that a few months ago.
On a LED light?
Yes, on
screen?
Yes, on LED.
Well,
This is similar to what you can see on 264 as you're driving in when you see on the, okay.
Similar, not
as large.
Not as large, yes. We are not
so-
increasing the permitted size. I think
Okay, so that was my second question. So you're not increasing the size that's there right now?
it is currently permitted to be 300 square feet. It's, I think, 12 by 25. It's going to be 10 by 30 at the end of the day. So it's going to not exceed what it's permitted as right now, and it's not going to be one of the giant 264 billboards.
Other questions, Thorough? Thank you.
Thank you so much.
There's no one else signed up to speak. Is there any other discussion or questions for staff before we vote? All right, I think we're ready.
The motion is to recommend approval of the conditional use permit, subject to the conditions contained in the staff report. Dr. Whibley?
I appreciate this information about the Amber Alert, but I'm sorry, I think billboards are horrible, and to accentuate it with lighting, I think, is even worse, so I'm voting no.
Mr. Young?
Aye.
Mr. Wells?
Aye.
Mr. Pendleton?
Aye.
Ms. Van?
Aye.
Mr. Bateman?
Aye.
And Ms. Sutter?
Aye. We'll make that recommendation to council. Thank you.
Item number 8, We Host Us LLC for a conditional use permit to operate a short-term rental unit, vacation rental at 9546 10th Bay Street. The purpose of this request is to allow a duplex to operate as a short-term rental.
Good afternoon again. Location of the site, east side of 10th Bay Street between Pleasant Avenue and Pre-Lake Avenue. This is in the East Oceanview neighborhood. It's currently a duplex, so 2 units with 3 bedrooms each for a total of 6. And the proposal to allow a duplex to operate as a short-term rental unit. Proposed use is consistent. NFPA 2050 puts it in the sustained coastal place type. The zoning is RC residential coastal. In this district, a CUP is required for vacation home with more than 3 bedrooms. Here's a picture of the site. The only improvement we are requesting is an elevation certificate showing flood compliance. It is in a high-risk flood zone. We Host Us LLC will be used for property management with personnel that have stated they can comply with the emergency response time. They also manage 3 other short-term rentals in Norfolk and 10 long-term rentals. No violations, relative costs for service have occurred. Within 500 feet, 50% of residential parcels are single-family and 25% of residential units are single-family. If approved, 3% of residential parcels and 1% of residential units within 500 feet would be short-term rentals. Staff recommends approval, subject to conditions of the staff report. The East Oceanview Civic League indicated no objection to the application. I did receive 1 letter of opposition who expressed concerns with high turnover, parking and traffic congestion, disruption to the residential character, and lack of on-site management.
Thank you.
Any questions?
We do have the applicant here, Carlos Blanco. Would you please start with your name and your address, please?
Hi, I'm Carlos Blanco, 908 Earth Chatham Lane, Virginia Beach, Virginia. So we are a locally family-owned property management company. We are operating 3 short-term rentals in the area, actually 2 or 3 blocks away from the proposed. And we also have some long-term rentals that have been operated. All of those properties are owned by our company. So we don't operate any third-party properties, let's say. Open to any questions if there are any.
Did you say you manage 3 other properties that are nearby this one?
Yes, 17 Bay Street and Portview, which is more towards Wallaby. 17 Bay Street has 2 short-term rentals and 1 long-term rental.
2 of the 3 are short-term rentals?
Yes.
Okay.
No concerns, good relations with the neighbors. We take care of them, they take care of us also, yeah.
Any questions for Mr. Blanco? Okay. If you'll, well, let me ask you this. I do have a question. Sorry. The other 2 properties, how long have you owned and managed those as short-term rentals?
We've done them for over 2 years. They've been operating as short-term rentals for 1 year. 1 year, let's say 14 months or so.
Okay, so they have not come up for renewal yet?
Not yet.
Okay. Okay, thank you.
Yeah, and they are all legal, and we have the business licenses and all the inspections.
No calls for service that you've had to respond to? Okay.
We are proud of our operation.
Well, we appreciate that.
Thank you.
Thank you.
We do have someone here in opposition, so we'll most likely have to go into rebuttal in a few minutes. Okay, thank you. Janet Tyndall? I'm sorry, if you didn't sign up to speak.
Ma'am, can they speak a little louder, please?
Oh, I'll certainly ask.
Thank you
Of
very
course,
much.
yes. Good afternoon, and I believe there's a request to speak louder.
Okay. My name is Janet Tyndall. I live at 3005 Pretty Lake Avenue. My address is 2 houses in from the southeast corner. Behind me, within 100 feet, we already have seven short-term rentals. One of them is a 6-unit thing, that 2-story, like, I don't know if they call it a condo or if they call it a, what are those other houses that are hooked together? But they're nice. They were newly built. They were nice. We were told they were going to be owner occupied. They never were. So then they went into rental. Then, several years ago, they started illegally short-term rentals. It was so bad that we had to call the police constantly. People coming into Ocean View are coming in to have a good time. They're having family reunions. We had people renting all 6 units lined up and down Pretty Lake Avenue and 10th Bay Street because they were having fun. And that's fine. That's what their vacation is for. But I have lived in Ocean View since the early 50s. And since that time, things changed. We got into drugs. We got the prostitution, all kinds of stuff due to high rental properties. So this particular building, I was told, had a for sale sign up for 2 days. And in 2 days, that property was sold, and it was bought with the intent for short-term rental. Now, these short-term rental people, they're parking. Ocean View has been inundated with short-term rentals. And I'm sure that this Ocean View can turn right back around to where it was in the 70s and the 80s with the prostitution and the drugs and everything else. If you don't have people there that have something invested in the neighborhood. Next door to me, on the east side of me, they just built 2 very nice homes. $805,000. I don't believe these people will want to buy this property knowing that 100 feet from them, there's 7 short-term rentals with cars parked all over the place, people loud. We put up with all kinds of stuff, but it's, we don't have, curbs. We don't have curbs, so they're parking in front of our houses and everything, and we can't do anything about it because it's city property in front of your house. Oh, well, ma'am, when you call the police, ma'am, you can call the city and have a no parking sign put on there. I don't want a no parking sign in front of my house. I might have somebody come over my house that we only have so much room in our driveways, so I don't want that. That was their solution for me. Otherwise, at 2 and 3 o'clock in the morning, when these people are finished partying, they're opening, shutting doors, talking loud, everything, and you're trying to sleep.
Your time just ended, okay? And I apologize, but we will have a chance to rebut once we have Mr. Blanco come back up, okay?
Okay.
Thank you. Mr. Blanco. No, it's just this one. So you heard what Ms. Tyndall concerned about parking and loud noise and also the density of short-term rentals in the area. Maybe you could speak to how you manage your short-term rentals.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, I completely understand her concerns.
And I think there was, if you could speak a little louder, I think there's.
Yeah, I completely understand her concerns. That's actually what I would think about if I was in that same neighborhood. But that's exactly what the operation we designed is to prevent. So we don't allow parties. We are firm on that. We are constantly monitoring our cameras, our noise detector devices. So we are like hands on the operation. We also have people that is living in some of our properties in the area that can attend in case anything happens. So we don't like that because we know we are a company that wants the neighbors to be with us, not against us, because that's not helping our operation, our business. So that's our business. That's where we take our income from. So we don't want that to happen. That's why we say, hey, we are people that is working on those houses. My wife is the one that goes into every inspection of every house just to make sure that everything is in compliance. Why she does it and not someone else? Because we want to take care ourselves of our things. So if we have any concern, any call, anything, anybody saying there is trash outside, we take care of that immediately. And we have proven that. So for her concern, I think those are probably houses that are managed by property management companies that are big companies that have multiple units, and they are not taking care of each individual unit. Each of these houses we manage is our own baby, so we take care of them and the neighbors again.
How many do you manage?
The short-term rentals, we have 3, and we have 10 long-term rentals in the same area. Yeah.
Other questions for Ms.? All right, thank you very much. Ms. Tyndall?
And let me point that something
please
out
do.
there. If there is anything I can do for the neighborhood to help on that, I'll do it. I mean, we can kind of have a community to get the people living in the neighborhood and the people managing properties just to make sure that this doesn't happen.
Okay.
Mr. Blanco, I would just, to that point, recommend you scan the neighborhood, meet the neighbors, introduce yourself, especially to Mrs. Tyndall. Give the phone number, so if they do experience anything, they can call you directly.
Great recommendation, and I actually will do it, and actually will provide cards for our company. So yeah,
It goes a long way.
yeah, that's great. Thank you.
Thank you. Mr. Tyndall? Ms. Tyndall, I'm sorry. Talking about Blanco.
I do not understand. My parents actually built that property that he bought. They're nice units. I do not understand. Those units are always rented. I do not understand, other than a money difference, why he would need to short-term rental it. The 7 down by my house is just right at the end by the lake. 10th Bay Street goes all the way up to Ocean View Avenue. There are other short-term rentals on that street. And I just feel like enough is enough. You just can't short-term rental and have people coming in from all over the place that don't care. It's not that, it's that this street, and I'm sure the other streets in Ocean View are the same way. They are just pushing it because you can make more money renting it out to somebody coming in from somewhere else than you can renting it everyday long-term rental. I don't have a problem with long-term rentals. I have a problem with people coming in from all over the place, never know who's going to be there, and you're getting way too many of them. People are building houses and turning them into short-term rentals. That is their whole thing. My problem, I can call the police when something irritates me and goes wrong with them. That's not the problem. The problem is we are being inundated with these short-term rentals. There are motels. If you keep this commercialized like this, we can turn right back around to drugs and everything else that we had before. He doesn't know these people coming in. He doesn't know what they're doing in there. I just think that many on one street is enough, and I don't think my street is the only street that has a problem with this. That's all I have to say.
Any questions?
I do have a question.
Yes.
Looking at the maps that were presented on the 501 mile buffer, I see that there's one property towards the end of 10th Bay that's permitted. I don't see
So they did
The
never get
numerous other
there.
ones.
I thought those people down there at the end they have 6 units built together. They're like a, I don't know if they're a townhouse or if they're a condominium, but it's 6 hooks together. They're 2-story. And they're always rented out, short-term on the weekends, the holidays, so that's, I just think enough is enough. You have to have people that own their property and they live there, not people coming in from all over the place. A few is enough, but this short-term rental has gotten out of control in Ocean View. And people that spend $6 to $1 million for homes, the 2 next to me are going for 8 because they're on the water. They're not going to want to stay there with all that going on. And we're going to lose property owners. And somebody will come in there and buy it and turn it into a short-term rental.
I think that there's some research that we could do to make sure that if there are short-term rentals, that they're operating legally, and if they're not posted, then please be sure to call those in to the city.
I believe I wrote letters.
Okay. Thank you.
Thank you. Any other questions or comments for staff? All right. I think we're ready to vote.
Motion is to recommend approval of the conditional use permit, subject to the conditions contained in the staff report. Dr. Whibley.
Aye.
Mr. Young.
Aye.
Mr. Wells.
Aye.
Mr. Pendleton.
Aye.
Ms. Van.
No.
Mr. Bateman.
Aye.
And Ms. Sutter.
I'm going to vote aye, but I do encourage Mr. Blanco, if you would, please connect with the community, share your information, like Mr. Bateman said, and make sure that you become community partners, okay? With the community. No, we're done with that now. But thank you for coming out, everyone. We'll make that recommendation to council. Thank you for coming out.
Are we concerned that there is some miscommunication or maybe places that are not being registered as short-term rentals? And are we
I imagine
cluing
we
in
know
on
made a
that?
note
Staff
of
has
that.
taken note, and
Okay.
I'm researching it right now.
Okay.
There are no complaints on that property since 2023, so I will send staff out to review the property in question for short-term rentals.
But it's not consistent with our map, right?
Yeah,
Am I
No,
correct?
There are no, the end unit at that point, that was referenced, the 6 unit, does not have a approval to operate as short-term rentals.
Right, so
So-
that's what I was hoping we would.
So we will.
Investigate.
We will investigate.
Okay, thank you.
Thank you, Director. I'm sorry, that part of the public hearing is over, and we don't shout at each other at this time, okay? But I imagine if you'd like to have a conversation, our planning staff will welcome a conversation later, but not right now, okay? Thank you, Ms. Tyndall. All right, I think we're ready for the next item.
Number 9, Cynthia Hall for a conditional use permit to operate a short-term rental unit, vacation rental, at 1442 West Ocean View Avenue. The purpose of this request is to allow a single-family home to operate as a short-term rental unit.
Hello again, location of the site, north side of West Ocean View Avenue, east of
Oh,
15th View.
If you could speak a little bit louder.
Sorry.
Thank
Thanks,
you.
hard to know from here.
That's all right.
North side of West Ocean View Avenue, east of 15th View Street. This is in the Willoughby neighborhood. Current conditions are a single-family home built in 2007, and proposed to allow a single-family home to operate as a short-term rental unit. Proposed use is consistent NFK 2050, places in the sustained coastal place type. Zoning is RC residential coastal. In this district, a CUP is required to operate a vacation rental with more than 3 bedrooms. Here's a picture of the site. The applicant has indicated Ocean Realty will be used for property management if approved, and they manage 8 other short-term rentals in Norfolk. All right, short-term rental history of the property. In 2019, an administrative permit was issued and expired in 2021. The applicant received a CUP in 2021 due to the changes in regulations, which that did expire in August of 2023 and was not renewed. There have been 5 violations for listing illegally or operating without a permit since September 2023 to September 2025. The 5th violation resulted in a civil fine, which was paid by the applicant. For the neighbor analysis, within 500 feet, 55% of residential parcels are and 25% of residential units are single-family. If approved, 6% of residential parcels and 2% of residential units within 500 feet would be short-term rentals. Due to the applicant's demonstrated history of noncompliance and failure to adhere to applicable regulations, staff recommends denial of the conditional use permit. This stems from the 5 violations issued from September 2023 to September 2025. The Willoughby Civic League does not support the application and did state, based on the applicant's documented history of operating a short-term rental illegally for more than 2 years with clear awareness, the use was not permitted.
Thank you. Any questions for Andrew?
Andrew, this was also, they had a zoning violation for a driveway expansion that wasn't
It
permitted.
never went to a violation. They did correct the expansion in the driveway prior to the hearing.
Okay.
Violation was not issued.
Any other questions? No. Thank you. Well, we do have the applicant here, Cynthia Hall. Ms. Hall, if you would start with your name and your address, please.
My name is Cindy Hall. I live at 722
And if you could stand a little closer or speak a little
I
louder.
live at 722 West Ocean View Avenue, and I have some handouts. Sorry for all that paper noise. And you have one? I didn't bring enough, so one person I'll have to share. And I want to thank you for allowing me to present, even though I've been denied by the planning office. And before I start, I just want to mention one thing. I've been a resident of Willoughby Spit for 32 years. I'm a Willbilly, and I'll admit it. In 32 years, I've never seen the changes that have occurred in Willoughby like we have in the last 7 years. Since short-term rentals have been allowed to operate, I know a lot of people are complaining about all the density, but if you want to see density, go look at overhead Google Earth pictures from 8, 9, 10 years ago. And look at all those ugly, broken window apartments, and now look at them. Go look back at some of those today, 2026, and look at the difference that the yards have been improved, the exterior cladding, the porches, the gardens. It's incredible. It's the best change that I've seen in all my 32 years. But back to 1442. There's 5 points on your paper of why 1442 should be a short-term rental. And I'll start with the first point. 1442 is uniquely situated in Willoughby Spit. It's completely surrounded by rentals. I challenge you to find one rental, one short-term rental in Willoughby Spit that is surrounded by multifamily and rentals like this one particular house is. I've got a little picture that you guys can see. 35 units surround this house. None of them are owner-occupied houses. My second point is that this house is a huge revenue contributor. Looking at 2027, because 2026 is already halfway through, and we've got a midterm renter in there for 5 months. But in 2027, based on estimates of other houses in Willoughby that are short-term rentals, similar sizes, and this one's previous history, it would take, and here's my little chart, I made a little chart so you could see, it would take 5 of the surrounding rentals to come up with the equivalent revenue that this one single-family house gives to the city. And granted, these other 5 rentals aren't short-term rentals, but that's the point. The only money they pay the property taxes, which are all pretty low, but this one house would pay the revenue that it takes 5 others to make. My third point is, I know short-term rentals now are the big enemy. Everybody fights, we hate them. Short-term rentals extend goodwill. We're an ambassador to visitors. in spite of what a lot of people say, we don't want bad guys here. We want the multi-generational family. There's a demand for multi-generational places for people to stay. Go to our local businesses. They're happy with short-term rentals because they make a lot of money from them. There's a little picture on there of Wavy TV10 and Swell. Wavy TV10 came out to Willoughby to ask the businesses what they thought of short-term rentals. The manager of Swell actually said this. They're happy with them, that 40% of their business come from the short-term rentals. My next point, point 4, the house was built in 2007. It has never been anything but a rental house. We've never had any complaints from police or to police, no trash issues, no noise issues, no parking issues. We've actually been a very good citizen. In 2025, we had an administrative violation for advertising for a short-term rental, and we went to court, we met the judge, we talked to the city attorney, we paid a fine, and we're operating responsibly. My last point is, if allowed to be a conditional use short-term rental, we will meet all the conditional use rules. There's 29 of them. There's even a rule that says that if we want to plant a tree, we'll get permission and go to an arborist to get the right tree. And we'll even do that. I don't want to plant a tree, but that seems a little invasive. But, and two last things I want to mention before I move into my close. We had a really hard time when we applied for the permit in 2023. We have 4 exterior HVAC units. We're told we have to raise all 4 units up to 12 feet. It's not as simple as cutting the copper tubing, replacing refrigerant, and raising it up. We have to remove and replace all 4 units, interior and exterior, at a minimum of $58,500. That was the lowest estimate that I could get. The units are still operational. They're older. They don't use the same refrigerant that the units use today. So in order to be compatible, the interior has to be replaced as well. That's the main problem. What bothers me is I see houses all over Willoughby, well, not all over. I see frequently houses that have their external units on a slab. I put this picture in here because I know the owner of the left house. That owner knows where his 8-foot elevation is, where his bottom floor is. This house right next door was just built 3 years ago. I have a hard time when the conditional use permit houses are used to, I don't know, if the air conditioning unit is 12 feet and the first floor is 8, it doesn't make sense, but we had a hard time with doing that, trashing 4 units that are good, that still had life left, that we paid money for to replace. And the other thing is the gravel driveway. We're not allowed to have a gravel driveway. If you would please look at this picture, this house was built 3 years ago. The entire driveway and parking area is gravel. Why am I not allowed a gravel area to park on when a brand-new house can have one? So, sorry to be a whiner, but we can't help this stuff. We get these rules, and we're like, what? We ask that 1442 be allowed to be a short-term rental. It creates jobs, creates revenue, creates goodwill from guests and businesses. We've successfully operated with no complaints or issues about guests or the clean and orderly management of this house. We're uniquely situated so as not to disturb the owner-occupied properties. And I'm not going to read it for you, you can read it, but the governor of Virginia's strategic plan, her component number 2, 1442, matches all the requirements of having places for people on vacation to stay and to help promote vacation areas that aren't known, and that would be Willoughby Spit.
Thank you for that, Ms. Hall. And
I thank you for your time.
Well, and I wanted to share my concerns, if that's okay.
Okay.
I don't have a concern with the suitability of the property itself or the revenue that it generates. And I didn't hear of any complaints with noise or mismanagement. I think the biggest issue is the 5 violations for operating it without the CUP, 5 violations in 2 years. I know number 5 on your on the documents that you shared with us, you said that you would that this location will meet all CUP criteria if it's allowed a permit, but you were operating it without a permit. And I think that's what brings concern for me, that as far as your willingness to follow rules when 5 violations in 2 years seems excessive for me.
It does. And one thing I'd like to, the lady already left, but the one lady that was complaining about the 6 units, maybe she hasn't considered that a lot of these units that people call short-term rentals are midterm rentals. We've been really fortunate. I could show you the contracts. We've been very fortunate in previous years to get some lucrative 3, 4, 5 month long contracts with displaced homeowners. Their house gets flooded, their house gets on fire, the insurance company pays it. So here we are faced with removing and replacing all of our units, spending $58,000. And at the same time, we have a long-term rental. It's not as much money as a short-term rental. We took it. Yes, we did. Last year, we absolutely, our long-term rental that we counted on left early. We got another one, but we had a few gaps to fill, and yes, we admitted it, we did it, and we went to court and we paid our fine. But we've been really fortunate, and we still can be fortunate with the long-term rentals. I would just like to be allowed to do the conditional use. It just makes more sense.
Thank you, Ms. Hall. Any other questions or comments for Ms. Hall? All right, thank you. We do have other folks signed up to speak. We have a proponent here, Greg Petricola.
Good afternoon. I'm Gregory Pietrocola. I live at 524 West Ocean View Avenue. I am a partner with Cindy Hall and 2 other members of our little LLC. I've lived there in Willoughby for 27 years. I own other rental properties, all in the long-term category over there. And this particular house, I think I've only owned for 5 years. When we bought the property, we had a limited conditional use permit that allowed us to operate, and we lost our authorization for that. Most of the time, we're occupied by a medium-term tenant, like Ms. Hall said. And yes, we found some gaps in there. We like to keep our calendar full, like most people running a business. What we're asking is maybe a little bit of forgiveness here for the violations. We did go to court. We were adjudicated by a judge, not by all of you, obviously, but a judge fined us. We paid our fine, and we're moving forward. If we're unable to receive permission to get this permit, we're basically left without the ability to operate a building which has never been used as anything but a rental, as a vacant home. And it's, unless we're able to find these intermediate length or long-term length tenants. And so we're just business owners. My partners and myself, Cindy Hall, retired Air Force. I'm a retired Air Force officer, and one of my other partners the same. And our 4th partner is a retired professor from ODU. We're just all retired people trying to generate a little extra money for ourselves in our later years in life. And we do not want to be singled out as being exclusively pushed aside as a homeowner there in Willoughby. We know the Civic League has pushed back against this. They didn't include us in their discussions, and in a couple weeks there's going to be another meeting. You're going to see a lot more Civic League people here objecting to the overlay concerns, which have been addressed by this panel and will be addressed in the future. Because there are a lot of us who have short-term rentals there in these larger category houses. Ms. Hall did make a very strong argument about the goodwill that we bring to the neighborhood, particularly with our military members. We have lots of families that show up. wanting to spend time with their military member families who are there and stationed and can't necessarily get away. So in a holiday period, they might want a 5-bedroom house or a 6-bedroom house that they can bring their members over and their families into for a week, so they can spend the holidays together. So we fill that niche, or we try to fill that niche if we can. But mostly, we're just a little business trying to get along here. And we certainly don't want to, you brought up the point that, hey, you've had 5 infractions. We've been to court. We've been adjudicated. We paid the fine. That part has hopefully been, fulfilled. It's like getting a speeding ticket. You got your speeding ticket, you paid your fine. We weren't happy with the idea that we had to pay a fine for what we did, but we did. We fulfilled the obligation. We don't want to be penalized again because of something that's already been adjudicated. With that, I'm open to any questions. Once again, Greg Pietrocola, lived there in Willoughby for a lot of years, so thank you for your time.
Thank you. Any questions for Mr. Pietrocola? I'm
Pietrocola.
mispronouncing it. Pietrocola. Thank you. Pietrocola. Thank you. All right, we do have some folks signed up to speak in opposition. Kelly Pearson.
Good afternoon, everyone.
Good afternoon.
Thank you for letting me speak. First off, I'm retired Air Force.
Could you start with your name and your address,
Kelly
please?
Pearson. I live at 1326 West Ocean View Avenue.
Thank you.
Okay? And I'm retired Air Force, and I would never in a million years operate the dwelling that they have operated illegally. That's what they did. I used to live across the street from like 2017 until last year. I bought a home. And I can tell you that it's been rented. There's, probably 8 cars in the adjacent parking lot. I don't think they own that adjacent parking lot area. I think it's owned by the apartment next door. Cars cannot park in one of the front driveways because it says do not park there, so they're already limiting their parking for this particular unit because it's a large one. And they're using a rental company for daily operations. They've been using the same rental company or management company since I lived there across the street. And they knew that they were operating illegally. And now they're asking for forgiveness, and I don't think it should be granted. Thank you.
Thank you, Ms. Pearson. Any questions for Ms. Pearson before? Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Daniel Casino? Please start with your name and your address, please. Thank you.
Good afternoon. My name is Dan Cousineau, and I live at 9710 15th View Street in Willoughby. And I also serve as the member of the Short-Term Rental Committee within the Willoughby Civic League. I'm here today to just make a short presentation. You already heard about our position. I want to give you a few more details that on March 12th, our Civic League General Membership Meeting, the league voted in a 93% majority to oppose this application. The actual vote was 25 opposing, 2 not opposing. The vote result was primarily based on a presentation of the various violations that we've already seen here. And we were able to gather that data ahead of time with a meeting with Russell Manning and Andrew Adams. So we don't need to cover the details. I would like to say a couple of things. First, the Civic League would also like to note that since September of 2025, 2 other conditional use permit applications have been considered in that time. And both received majority support from the league with approval rates of 66% and 70%. One being a new STR and the other a renewal. We also wanted to mention, the reason we want to mention this is because there's been a bit of misinformation, especially recently, about the Willoughby Civic League being anti-STR in general. In this case, the applicant did not act in good faith with the community, as evidenced by the multiple violations. And at a time when we as a civic league and a community are concerned about being STR saturated in Willoughby, we certainly want to have as many good operators as possible versus those who have demonstrated the opposite intent. With that, I don't know if there's any questions.
Any questions for Mr. Cusino? Hopefully I said it right that time.
Thank you.
All right, thank you. Next, we have Jimmy Sullivan. Hi, Mr. Sullivan. Name and address, please.
That's my only excuse.
Oh, take your time.
It's Jimmy Sullivan, 1540 Leaview Avenue in Norfolk. I just want to note about, it came to mind what she said. I was in the Army, retired from the Army, and you had task condition standards. You had mission essential task lists, and you had implied tasks to those, so if you had to whatever. So from the lack of compliance and what I'm going to give you now, I back everything by research. I got with a scrapping company that scrapped all of the short-term rentals so that it could give me information like calendar, reviews, everything, and then I studied them. And then I went to visit the site. And one thing they showed that it's not for this, but there were a huge number of short-term rentals that aren't even listed. But what I want to note is that Ms. Hall was registered from August of 2019 until August of 2023. Not registered. Now, the rules or code went in effect in March of 2018. She wasn't registered from March 2018 to July of 2019. After her 2023 expiration, she was not registered from August of 2023 until present. And that, to this day, there were 44 stays during that time from 2018 until the end of last year. And during that time, only 14 were during a registered period. This year, in 2026, I think it was back in the October to December, she switched to minimum of 30 days. It was reflected on the information. But when I checked, I found, and I actually saw some, just in the month of January, there were 3 short-term rentals. And the way I found one is the lady said, "Thank you for the rental. My dog and I loved it," and she gave the dates that she was there. Another one, I saw 6 cars parked on the open area to the left or west of her house. That belongs to the apartment company. She did mention when we went to the neighbor meeting that she had put some stakes or something like that to define where people shouldn't park, and the owner of the apartment complex removed them. Well, as you know about adverse possession, if you put things there, if you leave it there, after a while it can, and she mentioned in the meeting that he took them away in talking to the guy's son, as if it's his fault. The thing is that, so as you know, put the fence up, put it up just inside the property line, it defines it. The list of guests, there's times that, like one guest said, there wasn't enough room to park in the parking lot, so we parked on 15th View. Great place to park. That's right there. It's in writing. There's another one that says, "We enjoyed having a great time. All 18 of our group loved it." 10 was the max they're supposed to have there. When you look at the front, I look back to 2017, there's supposed to be cameras on the front where the parking lot is. There's not any. Never has been any. You can go all the way back by Google Earth down at the bottom.
Mr. Sullivan, your time is up.
Okay, thank
We only
you.
have 3 minutes, but I do appreciate you sharing that information with us. We're going to head into our rebuttal phase now.
Yes, ma'am.
So how that works, and you can go ahead and sit down, but how that works is that the applicant will have 5 minutes, and then those in opposition have 5 minutes. You have 5 minutes total. So if one person speaks and they speak for 5 minutes, that one person is the only one that's going to speak, okay? Same goes with the proponents, okay? So, Ms. Hall, I'm going to invite you back up. Would you like to speak to what your neighbors are concerned
would.
about. Thank
First of all, I want to talk to Dan, who, interestingly enough, the Willoughby Civic League wanted to start a short-term rental committee within the Civic League. I was asked to be the lead, along with my next-door neighbor,
Well, speak to us, please.
Ricky Ricardo, or Ricardo Cecilia. And 3 months later, the Civic League president said, we don't want you to be on this short-term rental because you're biased towards short-term rentals. That's what they told us, and they chose someone else. Also, the meeting that he's talking about, I was out of the country. I didn't request the Civic League to present my case at that time. They chose that on their own while I was gone. No one was even there in my defense. So that's that. As far as all the events that, I'm trying to remember them, I didn't have a pen. The 18 people, we don't allow 18 people. We don't want 18 people. One thing, I don't understand why people don't get this. You have a nice house, it's listed at 1.5 million assessment. You don't want people partying in there. You want the grandma and grandpa. We don't allow 18 people. If we knew there was 18 people, you can bet we would have kicked them out, and we would have asked one of the sites to file a violation against them for lying. I don't know if maybe 18 people showed up during the daytime, but they're not supposed to spend the night there. And as far as the other thing, I don't know where he got that we were renting in January. We've got a long-term renter in there that's been there several months, and people can write reviews. Long-term renters rent through the sites. People can write a review when they're there for a month or two. It doesn't have to just be a short term. And did you have something?
Well,
Oh,
you'll have to,
parking.
okay, yeah.
This is, during that meeting, the neighbors that own the empty lot were there, yes. And it was brought up, and I said, I don't want people to park. We tell them every single welcome sign says, do not park on the lot, you will be towed. It says that in our welcome package. And I said, you know, at one time we put up a fence, and your dad, this is the son, and I said, your dad asked us to remove it. So I did, but I would really like to have a fence there. And he said he would be happy if we put a fence up, which we would do, is put a fence between our lot and the empty lot. It's hard, it's, when you tell people that they're going to be towed and they park anyway, the only thing left is to go tow them, and you have to catch them first, which means you have to be there up and down the street every hour, because people come and people go.
Who's your management company?
Well, I was doing it, and Greg was doing it. We were doing it separate from Ocean Realty. Ocean Realty does not manage it. Yes, I work for Ocean Realty, but I was doing it on my own with Greg. We are prepared to turn it totally over to Ocean Realty. All the money would flow through Ocean Realty, just like a normal rental property, if we get the conditional use permit. And primarily, that's not because of getting the conditional use permit. Primarily, I'm tired of managing. Every single day you get phone calls with problems. So that's the main thing, is have Ocean Realty manage it instead of us.
Ms. Hall, can you answer a question?
Maybe.
So after the first violation, when you realize that, oh, we don't have a permit, certainly makes sense to ask for forgiveness there, but 4 more times?
I mean,
Can you, because we have specific dates and separate violations? Because these aren't all one violation that you paid. You don't only pay when you get to that.
Right, so to address that, Greg Pietrical again, the address of record is my home address, 524 West Ocean View. I only received one written notification, which was the one that had the fine associated with it during that entire period of time. Now, in that notification, they were showing posted notices on a door on that property. That's not coming to me at the address of record. And I'm unsure as to what the status of those posted violations were. But majority of the time, they were ads that would pop up for a day. I don't know if you know anything about Airbnb or VRBO. When you're working with a broad calendar, the calendar doesn't always exclude you from advertising over a broad range of time. Sometimes it pops up for a day, and we would get caught on that particular day as advertising. Am I out?
Yeah, you're out of time, but I do have a question,
Yes,
though.
ma'am.
Are you saying that you weren't aware of the previous violations?
The only one that I was aware of, I am the LLC addressee of record. So if you look up Little Bay LLC, it comes to my home. I only received one registered letter from the city that said, hey, you have all these violations, you're being fined. And that's, when I got that letter, I went over to the real estate company that Cindy worked out of, and I said, hey, what's going on with this? But that was the very first time. And I wanted to go to court and argue about paying the fine. I didn't feel like the fine was really a justifiable fine, but they didn't give us a chance to really respond. They basically said, you're here, you're guilty, pay a fine. That's the bottom line. You don't get to talk to the city attorney, they wouldn't talk to us. I made several phone calls to try and speak with them directly. And the judge, I think, pretty much has his hands tied, saying, hey, you've had these events occur, and consequently you're fined for your behavior, pay your fine. That's the adjudication right then and there. So we paid the fine. You know, that we were adjudicated. We don't feel like coming to you, we should be adjudicated a second or third time.
But you were operating a short-term rental while you did not have a conditional
Yes, we
use
were.
permit.
And-
Right, so whether you received
But we
the
weren't-
notification, you knew that you were operating it. You had a CUP prior to it, so you were aware
We
of
never
it.
had a CUP because they wouldn't allow us to.
You had
We
one
had a
from,
by right. By right, and then they changed the rules on us.
but you had one, yes?
Yes.
And you knew you had one.
A by right, not a cup. I'm not trying to mince words with you, ma'am. The rules have changed so many times over the last few years, and there is this big issue with mandating the raising of these air conditioners, which
But we were talking about.
I understand that, but to us as operators, here's a
Certainly.
$50,000 bill you're trying to fit into your
And you don't
annual budget.
believe that you should
Not
pay
if they're
it.
operable, you know, they're operating functional units. If you told us, hey, when you do a change out on these things, will you please raise this platform to bring it up to 12-foot standards? I'd be on board with that. But to tell me, you know, you need to take 4 of your air conditioners and exhaust the coolant gas into the atmosphere and replace them because we're mandating it, that's a big bill to ask, I think, a small business owner to absorb without really considering the repercussions of that. As far as the neighbor goes next door, there have been some times when there have been a lot of cars there, usually on our Christmas party when we're all over there, all the people that work for us, and it's usually just for a few hours. But
Well, that answers my question. Are there any other questions from the commissioners for either Ms. Hall or Mr., and I'm going to say this right, Pietrocola?
Pietrocola, very good.
All right, go ahead.
Yeah, but I just want to hear a clear answer on, because what we're all struggling with is the knowing that the requirements to have a permit were violated multiple times intentionally, that you would then would have received notifications of those violations. These weren't, you know, a single violation, they were 4 times. I'm still struggling with that. And if you can answer, were you advertising every time that you received a violation on those dates that were as a short-term rental?
The 5 violations were for the same advertisement, which was never taken down. We weren't, yes, okay.
Okay.
We had a contract for a long-term short, rental, not long-term, but midterm. And in May, I think, they ended it early. So we did advertise to fill the gap because our next long-term rental wasn't coming into August. And I admit to that, we did do that. But the 5 times weren't, oh, I'm sorry, we didn't do it. The 5 times were, we got notified and we never took our ad down because we didn't get the notification 5 times. So
You get revenue for those 5 times for 5
I could
different
show you,
short-term rentals?
we have to sign a coupon every month because we do have a
Yeah.
business license.
Yeah.
And we sign a coupon every month. And if we have under 90 days my accountant fills out the coupon and sends the taxes out, and she never violates that. If we had under 90 days, she fills, and also if we rent anything on one of the sites, they automatically pay. So there's no way.
And the reason I'm asking for you to clarify that for us is because you came and said you'd like, for us to show forgiveness, and I think we're a very forgiving board, and if you make a mistake once, that's a different conversation, but when it's 5 times that violations were issued, I needed you to explain that, and thank you for doing that.
Had he gotten one violation, that would have been it. We would have said, look, we've got this long-term coming and let's cut it off. We don't need to try to, and still, even with all that, we still ended up at a net loss for the year because we really didn't rent multiple times like said, so.
Understood. Thank you. All right. Now for the opponents. So let's see, Mr. Sullivan, Ms. Pearson, or Mr. Casino. I don't know if you have one representative or if all of you will want to speak. Okay, I'll let you manage your own time, though.
Yes, ma'am. It won't take long. I want all of you to know, and I want the individuals who own short-term rentals, that I'm part of the Willoughby Civic League subcommittee for STRs as well, okay? Of course, it's a voluntary thing, and, we volunteer to keep our community a safe community, a thriving community, a legal community, and so on. You get where I'm going. We are not against, and they'll back me, we're not against STRs at all. They have it wrong. They have blinders on like horses. We want the city of Norfolk and our citizens and the owners who own them to do it right, to do it correctly. The city of Norfolk is losing out on significant revenue with these illegal STRs. We're not against them. It's not fair to the people that are doing it right for everyone else to do it wrong. And that's why we're here speaking on behalf of the citizens of the Willoughby Civic League. Thank you.
Thank you, Ms. Pearson.
The Civic League had, usually the applicant approaches the Civic League for a presentation. We had gotten, then there's 2 options. You can either meet with the neighborhood or you can go through the Civic League. Because of the violations and those kinds of things, we thought while the applicant chose the neighborhood option, we wanted the Civic League to be informed of that. And the way we were informed of that is we approached Russell and Andrew and gathered the same information that we've seen here to make sure that you would know what the Civic League is trying to do there. So, but I'm just I think I'm right where you are as a business person. I'm retired now, but as a business person, you have to know what's going on in your business. And if you don't, you're going to have problems. So I'm at a loss as well as to some of the things that we're hearing here today. So thank you for your time.
I think we might have time for one more, unless that's everyone.
Oops, I'm sorry. The points that the applicant was making, for example, when I went in to the home to look at it, and I mentioned about that there were short-term rentals. The violations were 2023, 2024, and 2025, and without going through the numbers. That's 3 years. The other was is when I went in there, as I was exiting, because she was talking about how they have the families, and I touched the banister, it fell over toward me as you were going down the stairs. So I mentioned to her, and her property manager was there with her, I think. I said, well, this is fallen. And then I'm not trying to knock, I'm just trying to fill in because of what she said. She turned to her property manager and said, essentially, she wasn't aware of it and told her we need to do something about this. So that's what I'll close with, the not awareness. And we've had, I've spoken twice in which it was said that we hated short-term rentals. In my area on Leaview, there's short-term rentals. There's some great people, there's some and not, weren't, but that's life. But the people there, as far as owners, are following the rules. There's one we had a problem with. The Planning Commission got with her 2 years ago. She's been straight ever since. So that's all I wanted to say, that, and thank you very much.
Okay. Well, the rebuttal is over, and now the conversation is with the commission now. Do we have any discussion or questions for staff before we go to a vote?
I'll just make a quick
I was
comment.
curious if notifications of violations are put on the door as said, or sent, I'm a little confused about that and concerned if, in fact, they only received the violation one time.
Notifications by state law is required to be posted as well as mailed. The file shows that they were addressed to the address of record on for each of these. While the folks were speaking, I was checking.
That's what I saw. And then one other thing, and maybe this isn't the time, but why is a gravel driveway required or not required? A violation.
There was a change in the zoning ordinance a few years ago that prohibited the utilization of gravel as a suitable driveway material because it was the ones that were being installed weren't engineered gravel driveways, so they were just dropping pressure run on the ground, which ended up being impervious anyway. So it didn't meet the goal of having something that was pervious to go through.
Yeah, that's what I was wondering, because
Yes.
I would certainly hope we would champion gravel that was pervious.
Correct. Most of the time, it's not engineered where it's designed appropriately, where the gravel's loose and allows it to be pervious. It's just pressure run drop down, which ends up becoming a concrete driveway.
Okay, thank you.
Clarify address of record, the four.
552 West Ocean View Avenue, that's the address on the letters I saw.
That's where you mailed it, it's incorrect. It's 524 West Ocean View Avenue. Sorry to speak out.
It was posted on the property, and again, that's why we just went with what's, these are auto-generated by the system for the mailing addresses, which is why the posting on the property also happened. I think it says something if they didn't find the posting on the properties.
To make a quick comment, I'm very impressed with our staff and how we have taken on short-term rentals, because I'm very much in favor of doing it in the correct way. And I think we've done a phenomenal job. And I think in the Hampton Road area, our standards are looked at as the right standards. So we're doing this right. And I think, unfortunately, when you're not doing it right, it puts a bad taste on every part of the short-term rental. Violations are violations. Administering your property is part of the regulation. It's part of the responsibility. So I want to, hats off to our staff for doing a great job. And
Well, if I may clarify, I'm sorry, I misread the number on here. On the letter that is on the file is to Little Bay LLC at 524 West Ocean View Avenue. That's what's
That
on the
appears to be
letters in the
correct.
system.
So it's correct.
So there was letters mailed to the address of record, and there was notices on the door.
Right.
And the operators had no idea.
But we had this exact
No,
same
we don't.
thing occur. Another gentleman that I'm familiar in Willoughby, that he showed up and said they were sending the notices to the property, and I don't get the mail there. And he goes, I don't know where they were going. So I do believe somehow we got the fifth one to the right address, which is kind of odd why did somebody did some research to try to figure out what the.
So that one, I'm familiar with that one because I've
Yeah.
spoken with that gentleman. There was, the address that those were mailed to were handwritten. We now utilize the system to auto-generate the address, which has the address of record from the real estate assessor's database.
And I appreciate that. That's a huge improvement. So, but how did we get the fifth notice to them that he did receive that took him to court?
I am unsure of how that that process. I would have to speak to the inspector on what was said
Yeah.
in the
I
court.
mean, it seems like that should be the first address, the first, notice should go to, not the property address, because.
Well, yeah, not to mix the two together, so this
Okay.
is, I'm looking at the first two from 24 and from 25, they have the 524 address.
So they were sent
mailed
appropriately.
as the mailing address.
Okay.
I don't know how or why not they may have received them. The other one, that was correct, the other instance Mr. Bateman's referring to, it was mailed to the actual property in question. But,
And that was a completely
That's a
different-
different property, yes.
Okay.
So these all went to the right.
According to what I have in the
address,
system, it
correct.
has the correct
Yeah.
address listed
Okay.
here.
Yeah, okay.
He misspoke.
Good.
Out of curiosity to tie up on that, is there anything that would, I'm thinking of like certified mail, USPS, are all of them treated the same way when they're mailed out, certified, or like a return receipt? Is there a difference in that part of the process?
Code of Virginia recently changed, it requires them to be certified now.
Okay.
So, in 25, we had to start certifying all of the violations. But again, that's why they're also posted on the property as well.
Thank you.
Any other
One last
questions?
comment.
Please do.
Mr. Sullivan, perhaps you could share with us the scraping and the data you filed, because that sounded pretty awesome.
Well, we're not going to do that now, but it's something that you could
I've
provide
spoken with
later.
Mr. Sullivan, we have our short-term rental team speaking with him. We have our own, as you're aware, we have our own database that doesn't just pull the information, because again, there could be conflicts. We actually have a company that does the scrape, and then also then reviews the postings to make sure it aligns and matches the address, and then gives it to us to then inspect it. So there's a different tiers of this type of software available, so.
If no other questions or comments, I think we're ready to vote. Thank you.
The motion is to recommend approval of the conditional use permit, subject to the conditions contained in the staff report. Dr. Whibley?
No.
Mr. Young?
No.
Mr. Wells? Mr. Pendleton?
No.
Ms. Van?
No, but I also want to thank the Civic League for stepping up and coming out and speaking up. Thank you.
Mr. Raymond?
No.
Sutter?
Before I vote, I did want to share that there are far more responsible short-term rental operators than there are the irresponsible ones. I know that we take short-term rentals very seriously. There is an upcoming event on May 4th. I hope you all will be there, because we do need to hear your voices, both the neighborhoods that have short-term rentals and those operators who own them. I think my biggest concern is that there seems to be a disconnect and maybe even some inattention to not necessarily the condition of the home, but rather your relationship with the city in the permitting process. And I know for myself, the best indicator of future behavior is previous behavior. And my greatest concern is that there seems to be that disconnect that I mentioned. So I vote no. But I do thank all of you for coming out this afternoon and having this important discussion, and we will make that recommendation to City Council. Thank you.
Item number 10, City of Norfolk to vacate 4,490 square feet of an unimproved portion of the Water Street right-of-way located north of 1235 Water Street. And she's not Joy, that's Paula.
It's a joy to have Paul.
Good evening.
Good evening.
I'm stepping in for Joy. It's been a while since I presented one of these.
Welcome back.
What we have before us is a right-of-way vacation request by the City of Norfolk for 1235 Water Street. This is an area, it's an unimproved portion of Water Street between Harbor Park and the Elizabeth River. So if you're standing looking at Harbor Park, it's on the right-hand side of that parking lot, unimproved sitting over there. The proposal is to vacate 4,490 square feet of the eastern end of the right-of-way. The proposal is consistent with NFK 2050. It supports the resilience goals. Basically, this is in support of the flood wall or the Coastal Storm Risk Management Project. It is zoned, the property all around it is zoned downtown waterfront. And all the property around it is owned by the city of Norfolk. So the city of Norfolk is the only property owner affected. It is not used for transportation purposes. It's unimproved. City council did initiate this right-of-way vacation request through resolution. It does support the flood wall project. We heard, the only utility provider we heard from that had an issue was Cox, but their only issue was, we have facilities, but we're working with the city on relocating them, so that's what we want to hear. Again, it doesn't affect surrounding development or any traffic. Site plans aren't available yet. The pump station that's to be developed on this site will go through design review, so you will see it in the future. And with that, we recommend approval of this request.
Any questions for Paula?
So is this what is impacting the Elizabeth River Trail that's diverted across the street?
The pump station itself?
No, this closure.
No, there's
So
nothing.
what is that is going on right now?
There's a number of other projects that Resilience is doing along this same run. This particular street closure is not the reason for that. There's a Dominion Power relocation of a line that's cutting across what's commonly known as Lot F, the gravel lot, that has to be moved over, which is why they have to close Water Street temporarily and reroute the Elizabeth Trail down Main Street. Main? No? Yes, Main Street. Yes? Yes.
I don't think it's Main Street, but it's across the way into the parking lot that it's
Yes.
rerouted, but
Correct.
that's temporary.
It's temporary. correct.
Okay, thank you. I couldn't figure it out on the map.
Any other questions? Oh, all right, thank you.
Thank you.
All right, any discussion or questions before we vote? All right, Paula? Susan?
She can do the
The motion is to recommend approval of the street vacation, subject to any necessary easements. Dr. Wiggly?
Aye.
Mr. Young?
Aye.
Mr. Wells?
Aye.
Mr. Pendleton?
Aye.
Ms. Van?
Aye.
Mr. Bateman?
Aye.
And Ms. Sutter?
Aye. That's it. I think we're adjourned.
Another one.